Hello, everyone. My name is Tavo Sans Cabri, and I'd like to welcome you to my Monday stream. I'm welcoming all comers, especially atheists. We have one of my favorite atheists in the wings right now. Wings, get it? Because I'm an owl. Kajik, would you like to come aboard?
Okay, wait. That's my cue to that's my cue to come up.
Kajik, hi. How's it going? I hear that you still don't believe that God sacrificed himself to himself for a 3-day weekend because a lady ate an apple. Why don't you tell us about that?
Hi, everyone. I apparently need glasses because I'm seeing double.
Oh, Kajik, you hilarious heathen. I love you.
Why do I sound so much like I'm on NPR?
Oh, Tom. Kajik, you're delightful. Your antics really are the highlight of my stream. And I can't wait for the day when you accept that God sacrificed himself to himself for a 3-day weekend.
Hello, me. It's nice to have myself here. Wait, so I would love to know. I would love to know if this voice fooled anyone. Like, do you think? I don't. And I sounded a lot like. Yeah, I when you started, I was a lot more Garrison Keillor than I usually am, right?
I need
you were a lot more Garrison Keillor.
Let me. Yes.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There. Welcome everyone to the live stream. My name is Tavo. Probably. I'm a doctor. And I'd like to welcome you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So please, people in the audience. All right. Well, Macintosh Pro says this is appalling.
God.
Oh wait. Oh, I haven't. Let me copy the link. Okay. Let me copy the link to join, and I'll put it in the chat so that people can join. I'll add that to the chat right now. And let me pin that. All right. So you've pinned that now. And I would love you to tell me how convincing Tavo Sans Kajek was in the beginning of the conversation. If you missed it, please go back to the beginning of the conversation and check out my new channel co-owner, Tavo Sans Kajek, who is going to be making arguments on this channel from now on. And I'd love to know what you think of that. So
I'm pleased to have you as your last episode, Tavo. It's wonderful to have you here.
Okay, I think this person is going to have some interesting insights on our little. Here's Dr. Kurt.
Okay, first of all, John 16:3.
Yes,
says,
my favorite.
They will do such things because they have not
It's
known
real?
the Father or me.
It's real?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a real John 16.
I didn't know it was real. I flipped them because I didn't think it was real. No, excuse me. I knew that already, Kurt. John 16:3 is my favorite passage. For God so loved the world.
Because they have not known the Father or me. I get it.
I'm sorry, Kurt. That's wrong. For God so loved the world that he sacrificed himself to himself for a 3-day weekend because a lady ate an apple. Yeah,
that's John 3:16.
It's my favorite. For God so loved the world that he sacrificed himself to himself for a 3-day weekend because a lady ate an apple is my favorite quote from the Bible. And whenever I think of it, I get extremely emotional. I get so emotional.
Owls on the street.
There's so many owls. So yeah, as an emotional owl, whenever I think of John 16:3, God loved the world so much that he sacrificed himself to himself for a 3-day weekend because a lady ate an apple. I become very emotional. I can barely sit in this chair. I
Did
can
you say
barely sit in this chair.
Are you emotional?
Okay, Slave Vadna Elijah, who has a really great channel, by the way, says, we about to have chicken tenders tonight. So really, really glad that you're here.
That's anti-owl propaganda.
You know, I do owe Kelly. Kelly came to the last stream and wanted to voice some thoughts. So Kelly, if you have any questions, you know, feel free to hop up. And I do have some people actually who have joined who want to. But my challenge to Dr. Kurt is this: let's have the Tavo Sans Kurt next time. Because Kurt,
I'll try it.
You are really good. You are really good at impersonating people. So I would be legitimately, genuinely curious to hear your. And then we do have a request. Macintosh Pro asks, "Can we freestyle rap together?" I rap. I do not do freestyle rap, but yeah. All right.
No,
So
Tavo, I haven't worked on an impression of you at all.
But you're really good at it. Like I feel like it would not take you long to. All right.
No,
well,
you don't have a lot of like Kent Hovind-esque spells that are easy to match.
Oh, interesting. All right. Okay. All right. Well, so Kelly, if you want to hop up and ask me a question, you're welcome to. And then actually, I'm going to mute myself so I can take this phone call really quick. I apologize. And then I'll bring up some other people. So I'll give it back to Tavo Sans Kajek for just a second, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much, Kajik. Now, I'd like to start with you, Kurt. When did you first stop believing that God sacrificed himself to himself for a 3-day weekend because the lady ate an apple?
To be clear, probably in my late 20s, but I don't know that I was ever fully a Trinitarian or at least had any understanding of it, because my church had changed from being subordinationist to Trinitarian only in 1980, and this is like 7 or 8 years after that. So I don't know that I would have said from my childhood that I was a Trinitarian anyway.
I think it's very easy to understand. God is God, and Jesus is God, and God is God, and they're all God, and they're all one, but they're not. Very easy to understand.
Okay, I'm back now. So in case there's confusion, Kajek is for those who have not been to this channel before.
Let me change. I'll change my name and avatar now. Let me.
No.
Never mind.
Yeah, I think you keep it. I think it's funny. It's funny. But what we'll do is we will have you on the channel next week for a live debate, and it'll be. But I feel like at this point, the real Tavo should stand up. So that's what we're doing. All right. Well, really glad to be here. I do have a topic for tonight, but I feel like some people will join quite quickly. So if anyone wants to, pop out a question for me or a conversation, and I know and as soon as I know Kelly's joined a couple of times and wanted to ask me something. So if anyone wants to hop up and ask me a question, I'll try and prioritize that. We do have Atheist Luke who's in the queue to come up, but I'm happy to take any questions from the panel, or if there's no questions, I can announce what my topic is for this video.
Well, if you I know that I haven't really talked much over here on this channel, but
Hi, Chris,
what
good
if
to see you? Yeah.
Sorry, what if technically the realities of a God is not a question if does he exist or not, but if the benevolence is in question?
Yeah, so this is an argument. It's the sort of evil demon argument. Like, what if God is evil, right?
Ditheism, I think that's called. Or anyway,
Yeah.
sorry for the dictionary, but for me, it's the. It's not. It's like, forget the whole argument of God. It does not exist or not, because anyhow, in that sense, for me, it does not exist. It's just the fact that if God exists, you cannot guarantee me that this entity is benevolent while also doing with the Epicurus trilemma. You know, and so that's the thing. And I know theists don't really like that, but the fact that if you look at the Old Testament, God is an asshole.
Yeah, and just so we don't get too far with the rhetoric, no profanity on this channel, if that's okay. I think an issue with monetization. I don't think the word a-hole is a word that will get you demonetized on YouTube, but just yeah. Quick shout out to Macintosh Pro. Thanks for highlighting the great channels who are on here. OD3 and I did a really great conversation. And so check out OD3's channel. It's really fantastic. So I appreciate Macintosh Pro. Whenever you highlight a channel, I'll give them a shout out. And I do want to thank Tavo Sans Kajek for kicking off the show today and giving a little bit of an introduction. So yeah, so the question is you know, so let's say that there is a God, but God is evil, right?
Or it's not working for the best interest of us. You know, we're just basically his playthings, or any way you want to spin it. It's not for the benevolence narrative.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the reality of that situation. So, so first of all, I think both sides of the debate, both atheists and theists and Christians and basically all points in between, all make the same mistake of anthropomorphizing God too much and treating God as a separate entity from the universe. Now, I sort of believe in a God that transcends the universe and a God that's omnitemporal and therefore doesn't share our linear temporal experience. But at the same thing, I think thinking of God as anything separate from the universe is challenging. It's hard to sort of reconcile myself with if there is a God. So as I've said in the past, based on my CTF argument, which is a comparative theological framework, I think if there is a God, then the Christian deity is probably a good approximation for what that God is. It's hard for me to imagine why an evil God would emphasize things like honesty, things like being, kind to each other, loving your neighbor, loving God. It's hard to imagine why. Maybe loving God would sort of fit under that category, but here's the other fact that sort of influences my decision making on this a little bit. Let's say there is a God and he's smarter than I am in every possible way, right? And he transcends time, so he knows everything I'm going to do. He knows everything I could possibly do against that God. Then you have sort of a dilemma of like, how would I be able to know that? In other words, if that God is smart enough that God could create the universe, then that God's smart enough that they could fool me. So I think the question sort of becomes moot, right? If you're dealing with such an omniscient, such an omni-intelligent God that they can fool me, then there's essentially no way to, But I mean, I generally define God as, the perspective that transcends all individual conscious experience and still imbues the universe with its reality, and it, and therefore you would think that something harmonious with all the interests of the universe, harmonious with all the perspectives of all the conscious agents within the universe, would be deeply reflected in that God to some degree.
But even if it was not like as what you prescribed, it's still a detached entity from us.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that you can say that it's truly detached from us. It may just be that our temporal existence within our lives is an existence where we are somewhat separated from God. But I mean, I know a lot of people who will attest firmly and quite stridently that they have had direct audience with God, that they've talked with God, that they've engaged with God. Anyway, I think you're asking an interesting question. It's an interesting thinking perspective.
No, I'm struggling here to figure out what on earth intelligence would even do with a God, right? Intelligence is the ability to accurately forecast and predict things in a realm of uncertainty. So what exactly would intelligence even be?
Basically, we're supposed to be drones, according to the Bible. That's
no.
What
Chris, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about as it relates to a God.
Let's do this, because I did promise that I would bring Kelly up to be able to ask a question. Max, I think I let you on last, so I'm just going to remove you briefly and then bring up Kelly and then bring you back up once my question with Kelly's done, if that's okay with you, Max.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll come back later.
Okay, all right. I'm going to remove you really quickly, and then I know we do have Truth Matters. Oh, we've got Truth Matters, so hopefully Truth Matters will introduce themselves, and I'll bring up Kelly as well, and then we will get back to Atheist Luke. But Kelly, glad you're here. I know you tried a couple of times to engage with me, and I can't remember why, but I remember it didn't work. So
Tavo, I'm so glad to be here and honored to be speaking with you for a moment. And sorry I whined so much about not getting through to you. That was just silliness. I'm thrilled to be here and talking to you for a moment.
Oh, nice to have you. That's a very kind introduction. Yeah.
My own story in 2 sentences is I've been a Christian of one form or another my whole life, Bible student, a mixture of Southern Baptist and Jehovah's Witness. And even after I stopped thinking about all that very much, when I finally started to truly lose my faith recently, it's been quite a journey since then. And of course, I'm trying to hold on to my own salvation with fear and trembling. And I'm just down to, I'm not saying I'm going to let go. I'm to the point that even though personally I'm seeing that the Bible is not infallible. I'm not asking others to believe that at all. I'm just saying because of that view in myself, I've really come down to the edge of I won't deny the Holy Spirit. I hope that makes sense to anybody listening. And so my interest in your story, Tavo, is now, gosh, I hope I have this right. Weren't you an atheist your whole life and then changed at some point and now you're Christian? Oh, please tell me I've got the right story with
no,
the right
you're pretty
person.
you pretty much have it right. I was essentially an atheist for all of my adult life. I was raised in a religion. It's a different religion. It's rather austere, and I don't talk about that much just because
Okay, yes, sir.
I feel like talking about that sort of it always feels like when I talk about my childhood experiences that I'm pejorating my family, which I always hate
I
to do.
understand that. I mean, honor your mother and your father. Honor
Yeah,
your mother and your father. I appreciate that in you.
yeah.
And you just went up 10 times in digits on my personal. So my question to you, Tavo, is can you share anything? And if not right now, just in general, what I'm looking for is someone to show some compassion who claims to be a Christian in regards to, what was that turning in your adult life that made you look at the possibility and move on into believing in your own form of Christianity without breaking it down into Catholicism, Protestantism, just some sort of Abrahamic religion. What is there anything you can share? Because of course I'm looking for that. And I'm dealing with the repulsion or revulsion that I believe is very natural for a Christian to. I get a lot of immediate responses when I'm honest. And I just say, this is where I am. And so it's been a very, very sad journey for me. I feel like I'm being kicked in the ribs by the people I'm going to, and I'm just fascinated with how I'm not getting none of the Christians seem to be getting behind me, but that's not true either. That's not true either. I do have a new support group of Christian friends, so I'm already taking back my words I just said, but this is all very new. So that's not a direct question, but I'm hoping it can stimulate you to share something with this struggling woman Christian who no longer claims any sort of Christianity other than I have not denied the Holy Spirit. Anything you can share in your personal story would be lovely, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, sure. And I want to say a couple of things first, because this is, I think, almost everybody on the panel right now, other than me and you, are atheists, right? So I do want to sort of acknowledge that, and I want to offer you an invitation. Like, I'll happily have a. I'm not a minister. I'm not a pastor. I don't have any theological authority. So all I can share is my own narrative, but I will happily share that with you. And if you ever wanted to have a more thorough conversation than what we're going to have right now, I'm totally happy to do that, because this is like our like weekly, like all comers live stream, and it can get a little bit chaotic. But I guess oh, and actually on day 3 is going to be on my channel on Thursday, and he says I'm open to that as well. And he's a wonderful, wonderful Christian apologist. I really resonate with what you're saying. I think when I sort of started to get interested in Christianity, I went to like a few different churches with like a handful of questions, and the response was always, there's there's really no place for you here. Deal with your questions and come back when you're done with having these doubts. And that's not a very sympathetic response, and I feel like you're getting some version of that. And so I do resonate with the fact that very often Christians will say you shouldn't have any doubt, and if you have any doubt, then go away and come back until you get rid of it. And I think that's always an unkind thing to say. So I just want to say that I'm glad you're finding the right group of people, and I think it's okay to have doubts. I think it's okay to have questions. When I joined my current group, that I'm the community that I'm now surrounded by, I started realizing very quickly that they weren't talking about their questions, but they still had those questions. They weren't talking about their doubts, but they still had those doubts. And so it became like really nice for me to be like, okay, well, here's my doubt, here's my question. And some people were like, yeah, I've wrestled with that myself to varying degrees, and I've had responses to it. I'll tell you what changed things for me is, for all my life, I was sort of in this paradigm of thought where the universe is huge and cold and uncaring, and this huge chaotic entropic void. And I was actually very comfortable with that. And then I was diagnosed with terminal malignancy, and I was going to die. And they put me on home hospice, and that was it, going to be it for me. And I probably would have died of renal failure, but which isn't like the worst possible way to die. It's not particularly pleasant, but it's at least not the worst way to die. But anyways, I ended up getting better. And the point of that story is this: I went through all that as an atheist, so I was very comfortable with my atheism. There was no foxhole conversion, as some people frame it. But when I started reading about Christianity, I think the things that I was compelled by is, first of all, these are actually good teachings, right? These are teachings that have been admired by, Jürgen Habermas, Ludwig von Wittgenstein, John von Neumann, Hannah Arendt, Simone Weil. Like, there are, and Gandhi called the Sermon on the Mount, he said he basically put it on par with the Bhagavad Gita. Thomas Jefferson, like, the list goes on. Many, many of the best, brightest, greatest thinkers in history have expressed admiration for the teachings of Jesus. When I actually started learning about the historical Jesus, I came from the standpoint of a mythicist. So I didn't believe that there was a historical Jesus. It was actually very slow coming around that I sort of started believing that. But I really liked reading the Bible with the understanding that there was no historical Jesus. In other words, I'm no longer a mythicist now. I think there was a historical Jesus. But I think it's a nice perspective to have when you read the Bible, because you really get the sense that that there's this tall tale of this folk figure in the Bible, and he's got all these great teachings. And then you start thinking to yourself, like, wow, these are really wonderful teachings to learn about. And so the teachings of Jesus just became so resonant with me that I said, these are beautiful teachings. Now, that doesn't mean that that Jesus was necessarily divine, but it was sort of, for me at least, the first part of a puzzle. Okay. And the second part of the puzzle was sort of like, the atheist arguments are that, the people around Jesus were just very gullible, very susceptible. They believed in legend, they believed in superstition. And there were a bunch of healers walking around the Greco-Roman age and the era of classical antiquity. But when I started doing more research, I started realizing that that's not actually true, that there are very few figures who are in that 1300 period who are really legitimate comparators of Jesus. And then I did the CTF argument where I looked at all the religions and I looked at all their bases, their evidentiary, the evidentiary historiographical base of each religion. In other words, how much attestations do we have that any of the miracle claims of any religion actually are events that happened historically? And I looked about 17 different religions, and I found that Christianity had the strongest base. And then there were a lot of other small pieces that fell into place for me that were interesting puzzle pieces that together formed a more cohesive picture. I'll just give you a couple of those. Like, number one, for me, it was at least interesting that Jesus is rather unique as a religious figure. Almost every figure who became a self-anointed or or anointed by others religious figure was like people like conquerors like Muhammad, emperors like Vespasian, even Buddha, Confucius, and many other thinkers were part of the ruling aristocratic class of their oligarchical societies. So it is interesting that Jesus is as sort of an itinerant teacher himself was sort of not in that category.
Wait,
And then-
what? Are you saying he's not from the line of David?
No, I'm just saying that he was, as an individual, not a person who was in any position of power in his community.
Oh, there's no demonstration of that.
Well,
in
Dr.
Mark at all.
Kurt, let me, because I do feel like I value your opinion greatly, Dr. Kurt, but let me, and Kelly, this is one of the things that I was saying, like, I'd be happy to have a more thorough conversation with you on a one-on-one basis if you want. And I will open it up to the panel to respond, but I feel like it's probably important to Kelly that I sort of say some of these things right now. But anyways, so
I don't want to interrupt the flow of your show, sir.
No, that's okay.
I'm
That's
grateful
okay.
to be here, and I'd really like to just listen, actually, to the entire debate tonight. I'm honored for the time, but yeah, I don't want this to be about me at all. I'm just grateful
No, I
for your
understand.
time.
Let me kind of finish. There were other pieces of the puzzle for me that were, I think, sort of when they fell into place became sort of data points, at least, that drove me in a certain direction. I'll just name a few more of those. For instance, in Jewish canonical tradition, Jesus was a miracle worker. I can't find any other named figures from Jewish canon who also performed, miracle events that the Jews attested to that weren't doing so without the express authorization of God, which means that Jesus was working through a loophole that was at least very abstruse. Now, when I went to the Jewish sources like the Talmud and the Toledot Yeshu, I felt like those underscored, some of the narrative elements of Christianity, and that became sort of another puzzle piece. And then I went further into Second Temple Judaism, and I found that there was this period of great lamentation in the last 40 years of the Second Great Temple when, they felt like the Holy Spirit had departed the temple. Well, the last 40 years would be between around 30 CE and around 70 CE. So that does line up quite well with Christian theology that, after the death of Jesus, there was this sort of group sense that that the Holy Spirit of God had left the presence of the Jews, that the holy presence of God was no longer among the Jews and had departed. And I thought that was another interesting puzzle piece. So a lot of individual things like that were sort of individual mysteries, individual questions to me. And when I started to sort of look into those things, it started to form a cohesive picture. Now, I do want to open it up to the panel, but I want to reiterate my offer to you, Kelly. Like, if you ever want to talk more about this, because that's just scratching the surface of some of the evidentiary claims that I came across. And I'd love to talk in more detail about this. Now, by the way, I know that there are other people who are trying to enter the panel, and we're cut off at 10 people. So right now we do have people waiting in the wings. We've got Atheist Luke, I Am Batman, and Faith from Facts. But first, I want to open it up to the panel to talk to Kelly as well, and you can offer your insights as well.
I just wanted to say thank you, Tavo, and I'm overwhelmed with the time. And I just want to kick back and listen, and I'm here.
Okay, well, I'd love to chat with you anytime. I'm so glad that you came up to ask. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to go to dinner. I'm so sorry, but what I'm going to do is listen to what you said and listen to the rest of the debate after I have my dinner. And thank you all very, very much. I'm stepping down and out of the panel so somebody else can come up. Okay.
Kelly, keep
Oh.
asking questions. Keep asking questions, Kelly.
Great advice. Great advice. I
Please.
would
Also,
take it.
Ask
And then
questions of your religion.
one last thing to Kelly, by the way. My email address is on my channel in the video description. So if anyone wants to email me, this is really easy to find on my channel. But it is just Dr. Tavo Sanabri, DrTavo Sanabri @gmail.com. Yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty important stuff. What if I'm wrong and I'm giving up my soul? That's what atheists who have never had this fear may not understand. I'm not saying that's true. It's just it is a very serious issue to me. And once again, I step down, and so great to be here. Bye bye.
Bye bye, Kelly. It's so great to talk to you. All right. So, as promised, I could bring Max back on. It does seem like there are a lot of other people who want to join. So let me bring up Max. Oh, looks like he can't bring him up right now. But I know there's Atheist Luke waiting in the wings. There's I Am Batman 144 waiting in the wings. There's Faith from Facts waiting in the wings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove Kelly because I think she's leaving anyways. And then I'll bring somebody else up. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna remove you, Kelly. But again, anyone can email me, and bring back Max back up, and then we'll keep cycling through people. And I'd like to try to get more people up, so as people have their time to express their opinion, we can bring more people up. But again, this goes for Kelly, and it goes for the whole room. If anyone wants to talk to me, I'm happy to have the conversation where I go through some other pieces of evidence on a one-on-one basis. You're welcome to email me. My email address is right on my channel in the description. And it's just drtavosanabri @gmail.com. All right. Well, why don't I open it up to the panel and see if anyone else has any thoughts on some of the things I said or anything that somebody wants to say to Kelly. I think KJ's advice, keep asking questions, is really on point. I think you should never be criticized for asking questions. You should never be criticized for expressing doubts.
Well, for me, there's one thing I wanted to ask for Kelly, though, is it important to absolutely, and I mean like to the nth degree, to find an answer still? Because it's not the fact that I'm trying to saying like the woo-woo atheist thing, but it's just like it's especially in existentialism. The thought is that there is nothing to be had of a God, but the thing is that I will continue to live as if somebody is watching me, somebody is judging me, and even if it's all in my head, and like life goes on, and I'll be the best version of myself until the end. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I honestly, Chris, I think that's a really good question too. You're asking really great questions tonight. My insight on that question is that I don't know how God is going to judge any of us, but I will say that from my own perspective, if somebody looks around at the universe and sees meaninglessness and absurdity and confusion, I can't judge that person. It's a strange universe. It's hard to make sense out of it all. So. I do know that Robin tried to join and the room is full, so we'll try and get through people.
I can jump out.
Well, I think you're asking really great questions tonight, Chris. So I hope if you don't stick around tonight, I hope we chat again soon. Modern Atheism has a really great channel, by the way, too, and says hi. And I think this is for you, Chris. Modern Atheism says, if God always forgives, everything is allowed. I guess that's not necessarily for you. I think it's just a criticism of Christianity in general. But
as soon as you say thank you to the abusive patriarch of the Christian religion, he will forgive all of your crimes.
is it that you have to say thank you, or do you have to really feel transformed in your heart and really feel penitent?
There's no, who knows? You could go to hell for it's unclear. It is very unclear.
You
what
definitely
happens.
have to be transformed. You can't be a Decepticon. You have to be a transformer.
I'm sorry. Who was talking?
That was Dr. Kurt.
You have to be transformed, and
You
God
can't be a Decepticon because, like,
so God is the one that judges whether you're transformed. So
Well,
you could think you're transformed,
an
and then
Autobot,
God is
right?
like, nah, I'm sending him to hell.
Yeah, modern atheism. If you missed Kajek's introduction, that is Tavo Sans Kajek is the second owl that we
I'm
have.
the Decepticon today.
But good to yes, yeah. Kajek is the Decepticon of the day, but we're still really glad that he's here. We have Robin who wants to join too, and I want to be sensitive to her time because we have had conversations as well. I don't want to jump anyone in front of anyone else too much, but if anyone drops off, I'll bring out Robin, and then I won't. We'll try. I definitely want to get the other folks on here, which is Faith from Facts, and Luke was on here too, but. Okay, actually, Robin's the only one now who's waiting the wings. So
I'm going to drop off. I might be back later, if that's okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you're welcome to come back.
This was hilarious, and I'll be back in Fox form next week. I think we'll set it up next week. Sounds good. YouTube Kajik1, and then on Instagram Kajik the artist. I'm mediocre at best, but I'm learning.
And Abia Nathan says, am I on X right now? Yes, I am. We don't do these streams on X just because the costs of being on multiple platforms. But yeah, but I am on X, so you're welcome to find me there. Thanks again, Kelly, for like chiming in and joining the conversation. All right, let me bring up Robin now. Let me get Robin up here. Yeah. Hi, Robin. Good to see you. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And Robin, you've got a fantastic channel, so I'm really glad that you're here.
I appreciate that, Tavo. Thank you for all the promotion you do. So, I try to respond in like so.
Yeah. No, you're great at it. You shine a light on a lot of different people, and you give voices to a lot of people who would otherwise not have a platform for communicating their ideas. So I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you're a member of the community. And I think you model what good community members are. I think forming relationships and forming community is really just as important as the rest of the work that we do in having conversations with each other.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. Well, I wasn't in a hurry. I mean, like if there was somebody in front of me, I just I just had like a little what I was gonna ask. So
yeah, go ahead. Feel free to ask whatever you'd like, and yeah.
Okay, yeah. When I look at, of course, I grew up as a Christian. I was Christian from my parents, and everybody in my family is still Christians. And I didn't lose my faith until I was like 50 years old. Now that I look back and compare Christianity to to other religions and stuff, I see like I know, like I've watched your thing about the argument about the evidence and stuff, and to me it makes sense that Christianity would have so much more so much more documentation and things, because have been so many Christians who have actually been involved in trying to preserve that. And I feel like, but like when we take the Bible, the scriptures, like the whole Bible, the Old and New Testament, we find so many, especially in the Old Testament, so many inaccurate stories that just do not equate to what we know about reality. Like just like the creation story, the flood story. The Exodus doesn't seem to, be able to have any. I have a book right now under my desk that is like scholarly argument against the Exodus. So and so it makes me wonder, like, if this is what the book that.
Would that book be The Bible on Earth, Robin?
Yes, it would.
Aha.
Yes, I have that. Yes.
Dr. Chris is very well read on a lot of.
So,
and by the way, as you all are chatting, I'm like pulling up people who are like asking questions. Like Modern Atheism says that he wants to debate the Trinity. Mega Bloodbath. Macintosh Pro says, love to Kefa's new song. I'll definitely check that out afterwards, Macintosh Pro. Thank you very much. I owe Kefa an email back. And I think Mega Bloodbath is also looking for a presupposition argumenter to debate on his channel. So, but let's keep going. All right. So, yeah. So your question is, there are so many things in the Old Testament that are not factual, that are not historical.
Yes. So considering that this is like the foundation of this religion, like the Bible is the foundation of Christianity, when so many Christians rely on it and everything. So what is the justification to accept even more supernatural claims that the Bible makes later on, with all of the inaccuracies that are in the Bible, and all of the the contradictions and failed prophecies and just the inaccurate versions of history, that I don't see it as a credible book, and so therefore it's hard for me to justify saying that the religion would be credible based upon that book.
Yeah, and I mean, I've said this before a couple of times on the channel, but I don't think we've ever talked about this, and it's something that I don't point out enough, that around the turn of the millennium, so around the time of Jesus, there was a big understanding among the Jewish community that the Old Testament was not meant to be literal truth. In fact, the school of Alexandria, including Philo of Alexandria, had this fairly certain core belief that the Old Testament stories like Adam and Eve and the snake and all that stuff were meant to be allegorical. Even when it comes to Noah and the flood, I think that's a very beautiful story with a really important lesson. I think it's a largely prescient lesson, and it gets underemphasized in the debate about the historicity of that sequence of events. But I'll just give you an example, because I like to highlight the story of Noah as an important allegory. To me, what that story says is that when humanity transgresses, when humans become evil, that it's the entire world that pays for the consequences of that, and not just humans. In other words, the punishment for the transgression of humans towards evil is something that's borne by the entire world, and that is something that we're seeing in our current world. Like, if you look around the world, the evil of humanity, or a degree of greed and self-aggrandizement, is something that's resulted in biospheres being decimated and biodiversity being completely lost.
Yeah,
So,
I gotta address that, because is there any way you can justify that reading on the basis of Augustine and Philo and Origen, these church fathers who read that story allegorically? Did any of them read it the way you're reading it?
They all read the story allegorically. They all took it.
Did they read it as
truth.
the allegory you are selecting?
They didn't contextualize it with the lesson that I'm selecting, but I think that's
correct.
That's
so
a lesson
where's the
based on-
hermeneutic? Where's the hermeneutic that allows you to pick the meaning from the story and put your position ahead of the actual source?
Well, I think it's based on a fairly neutral scholarly reading. But before we get to that, let me make the other point that I was going to make to Robin, which is that this was the understanding around the turn of the millennium. And the point is that over time, Christianity became much more fundamentalist. And if you look at the late 19th century, that was the birth of the verbal and plenary interpretation school of thought. That meant that every part and every word, verbal and plenary, word and part, of the Bible was literally true. And that culminated in the Niagara Creed in the early 1900s. I think that came out. Which was a declaration for fundamentalism. Now, this was not being promoted by organically by any grassroots or Christian movement. It was being promoted by Milton and Lyman Stewart, who were two huge oil tycoons, and they invested.
Tavo,
oh yeah, go ahead. Chris.
Sorry, but no matter how you slice it or look at it, it's theological evolution by social standards. It's just ideology that has been gone through the meat grinder and just been.
Well, maybe I should finish my point, because it is an important point. So the verbal and plenary interpretation that was the Niagara Creed in the early 1900s, and that was a top-down movement, and it was they spent about $300 million for that in current USD dollars. So, and that was oil tycoons who were investing in this, and they created the Fundamentals, which was a series of publications meant to endorse fundamentalism. And then there was the Chicago Statement on Biblical Inerrancy, which again advocated for a very literal interpretation of the Bible. And that was all in 1979. But the early church fathers all very clearly believed that Old Testament stories were meant to be allegorical. They were meant to give us moral lessons, and they weren't meant to literally be reflections of truth. In other words, they weren't saying there was literally a talking snake in a literal Garden of Eden. So I think that's the big point that I want to make. I'll open it back up to the group now.
Yeah, I can agree. I agree with you, Tavo, that like a lot of Christians don't represent even what the Jewish scholars accept about the Old Testament. But I would say that, so if you remove the Old Testament and the stories of God, because it doesn't seem to match up with the God of the New Testament either, I think. But still, there's
I don't know if I'd personally go that far, but that's a different topic, and I'd be happy to chat about that. Now, in regards to what Chris is saying, I think Chris is saying that this is the natural evolution of religion. I actually don't think that's true. I think if you look at most religions, and I looked at about 17 religions, they mostly have capitulated and modernized themselves as soon as sort of the era of modernity came around, since around the 1500s. Many religions underwent what's called philosophical laundering, where their theologies were recontextualized as philosophies. Probably the best example of this is Confucianism, which is now essentially a philosophy. But in its inception, Confucianism was a religion. Buddhism did very much the same thing. There was a really interesting evolution of Buddhism before it became, something that was imported in larger, efforts to the West, to the North American continent and to Europe. But before that time, Buddhism was a much more fundamentalist belief system that had religious narratives, and Buddha was a much more transcendent, cosmological, salvific figure in ancient Buddhist tradition. So it actually, the opposite is the more common trend. It's usually religions go from.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I understand what you're saying. But Sam Harris used to say, "This is how the sausage is made." And I think that's probably what Chris is kind of referring to. But without, I'll just go to this one last question, and I'll jump off and let you bring somebody else up here. Without the original sin, Adam and Eve, and the original sin, what is the what is the justification for the need for Jesus to die on the cross? If you take that story as allegory or whatever, and so it's not actually literal that original sin was born in the garden. What is the justification for saying that we needed Christ to die on the cross for our sins?
Well, I don't know that I believe in all the dogmatic aspects of original sin, but I definitely believe that humans have a huge tendency towards evil. Now, Hannah Arendt is one of the most influential, she's an atheist, by the way, one of the most influential political science writers of the last 100 years. And the phrase that she wrote about, which became widely popularized after her writings, was the banality of evil. And she writes a lot about how good people can do horrific things, and I think there are a number of other examples: the Milgram experiments, the Stanford Prison experiment, everyone who did terrible things to other people in Nazi Germany. There were many examples throughout history of where humans who are good, who consider themselves good people, do terrible things. And there's a lot of psychological research on what's called moral self-licensing, where people say, "I consider myself to be a good person," and that self-designation as "I am a good person" actually turns into something that potentiates really horrific, really evil, really harmful acts to everyone else. So I don't know that I would say that I agree with necessarily original sin, but I think the lesson that's there, that humans tend towards evil unless they're checked by external factors, is actually quite potent.
I would disagree with that. I think that I think that people are basically good. I think there are some people who are born with some sort, like certain narcissistic disorders that make them not feel empathy for others. But I think that most humans are actually good. I think that there are that doesn't mean they won't ever do a bad thing, but I don't think that they do things that I would necessarily consider evil. But I'm just going to push on it because you did not really answer the question of what is Jesus saving us from if the original sin does not exist? If the original sin is not something that is created by the first two humans or whatever. However, I mean, even if you go back to the if you go follow evolution and stuff, there's still somewhere there's the ideal of that there was something that Jesus needed to save us from.
It's basically because the plot, I would say, the plot demands it, Robin.
Oh, Chris.
So
let Tavo answer.
No. I don't mean to monopolize the conversation.
No,
too
but
much.
I mean, I think you're I know, me and Chris are on. Me and Chris agree with each other. So I would say that, yeah. But I just don't understand.
I think I would start with the premise of we do need forgiveness because we are evil, right? So that's the premise I would start with. So
I don't think I'm evil, and I don't think you're evil, and I don't think Kurt is evil or Chris is evil, or I would say that there's nobody even in this chat.
And maybe evil is the wrong word, but I think if you should read a book by Browning, it's called the RSB 101, Ordinary Men. And it's about Reserve Service Battalion 101 that was in Nazi Germany. They were all good people. And they all said, yeah, I'm a good person. It's just, these orders came down. So we basically did this and I did this part of it. And to me, it was just me doing my job and I was serving my country.
Yes.
And
people they get, people will go along sometimes in trends with groups. And those kind of cases are really
and let me ask you this, Robin, there are, I don't want to get too political, but I know that there is a political spectrum on the opposite side of you that you've struggled with. And I think we both know that people on that side of the spectrum would, if they were unchecked, if they were given unlimited power to carry out their agenda, they would do some really vile things to other people in the world.
Yeah, I think there are. I'm not saying that there are no bad people. Evil. I don't believe in the existence of evil as this just energy that. So I think that evil is just a word that we use to describe actions that we find very offensive. Something that I would. I've probably called Trump evil before. I don't necessarily think that he actually is evil, but he's probably about as close as I can think of in a human existence of it. But I think that he is a rarity and not an actual representation of the population of humanity. I think that most people
I don't
just to survive. But let me see if I can put this thought, and then I just when I look at the stories about the God and people say, oh, humans are evil, look at all the things that we've done. I see very few humans that have committed the atrocities that I see mentioned and attributed to the God. And so I don't see if God exists, I think that he is probably far more evil than these creations. And that's why I'm not a Christian.
Yeah.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi to everyone.
Oh, hi. Is this Truth Matters?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
Tesh.
good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't give you. I should have given you the floor more.
And I'll
throughout the
jump. Well, I'll
conversation.
jump down and let you bring up somebody
Well,
else. And
Robin,
you can
this is a great conversation topic, and I'd love to have you on the channel for a Talking with
Yes.
Tavo video. And I'd love to like just let you share a lot of your viewpoints. But if you ever wanted me to engage people in some of these arguments, because I think we just kind of scratched the surface of that, and I'd be happy to talk more about that on your channel anytime. And I'd
Yes.
also be really happy to have you on my channel and just do a talking topic, because I'm really curious about what your journey has been, where it's taken you, and what your insights are after listening to so many debates and so many conversations for a long time on your channel. I'd really love to know more about
That would be great, Tavo.
Yeah.
That would be great. And thank you for letting me up. And bye, Chris and Kurt and everybody. And
Shoot me an email, Robin. You got my email address, right? It's on my channel too.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, good to see you. And again, if anyone doesn't know Robin, she's got a really, really fantastic channel. I'm bringing up BBN now, who is the next person in line. And before you introduce yourself, BBN, let me highlight Macintosh Pros. Comment, like and subscribe to the subscribe. Thanks for pointing that out. Please do support the channel. I'd really love that. I appreciate that. And Macintosh Pro and anyone else who's a mod, feel free to highlight OD3's channel or TNC's channel. I'd love that as well. All right, now let me give the floor back to Truth Matters, and then we'll have BBN introduce himself, because I'm really glad that you're here as well, BBN. But go ahead, Truth Matters.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Yeah, thank you very much. And I appreciate your efforts. And it's a very respectful stream for people to share their ideology, to ask questions, and to get answer of their questions. Yeah, so I appreciate that. And uh, I want to go with, I have limited time, then I'm going to move. And so the other people can get opportunity
And
to.
Truth Matters, do you want to speak up just a little bit? Feel free to speak up if you'd like.
Uh-huh. So I was listening the conversation, and there are some things I observed that when it comes to the, I mean, like to deny that there is a power, or to deny the God, then that's my observation that it looks like it's in our blood, like it's we every single human have this thing in their, like in their human software, like we are created like with this software, with this ideology that there's a power who created everything. Now the people who ended up becoming a Christian, atheist, the people who doesn't believe in God, but before there was a time they've been believing in God. Later on, they ended up leaving to believe in God. My observation is like they come up with so many questions, like if this why if there is a power, there is a God, then why we have a flood, why we have a people who are handicapped by birth, people who have no eyesight by birth, they are blind, so many things, then why there's a evil behind. So I think that my observation is that so that's the reason they then ended up becoming an atheist, that there is no God. But the moment they deny that there is no God, then uh, there, uh, there is another mystery box on the way to be opened with thousands of questions, like if there is no God, then why we are here in this world? What's the purpose of our life? Why we are here? So then they, yeah. So what they do, they read the scriptures of different religions. Then they say, oh well, it doesn't make any sense. Then they ended up becoming atheists. But by birth, every human being has this thing in this human software that we believe by birth that there is a power. We just need
Well,
to
that's an
Yo, can anyone
argument.
hear me?
Oh yeah, hey BBN, good to see you. That's an argument. Does anyone want to respond to that argument? We do have a lot of atheists, so I imagine one of them would like to respond to that.
I can't
I
hear
want to talk.
anyone if they can hear me.
Oh, BBN, we can hear you, but it sounds like you can't hear us. Yeah, I think BBN. It's good to see you, BBN. I'm glad you're here, but I think we can hear you. It sounds like you can't hear anyone though. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove BBN, even though he's really great, because I hope he rejoins and maybe redoes his audio, because I think he can't hear us. Yeah. All right. Okay, BBN, you're off, but we do have a spot on the panel that's open now. But okay. All right. Let's go back to and by the way, here's the link for OD3's channel, and on day 3 is going to be on my channel on Thursday. So let's go back to Truth Matters question. And does anyone have a response?
Can we simplify the question a bit?
Truth Matters, do you want to simplify it, or I could try and distill it down if you'd like?
Okay, I try to put my point. Then maybe you can help to
I think
define
the claim is our natural state is to believe in God, and
Yes.
therefore that should carry with it some argumentational presumption.
Oh,
And
no,
the second point is
that shouldn't
Really
carry
great to
any
see you, Zara, by the
all.
way. Thanks, Zara, for being here. Sorry.
yeah, and the second point is first point is that it look like I'm gonna whatever words I have I'm gonna use. Like my point is by birth every single human being, like whosoever the creator or the power who created the humans and every single thing, who did the creation, he installed this in our blood or whatever we can say in our soul or in our mind, brain, heart. That by birth we believe there is someone, because it's not going to be happen that
No, I mean, this is just, there's no demonstration of this. There are entire culture groups that don't have a concept of a God.
no. I mean okay. Let me present how I can deal this. Like if we see the history is
You're
full of
asserting something
people.
that there's no evidence for. So find a different thing to assert.
I mean, so the thing is like my argument is like it makes sense. Like if we see the history, then we come to a point that no matter thousands of years we go back, humans were believing in God. So
No, again,
it's
I am telling you, the facts do not demonstrate that.
What are some cultures, Dr. Kurt, that don't have any
The
belief in God?
Piraha, for example, but they're one of probably many cultures that
which
existed
one?
in the Brazilian jungles that, as far as we can tell, did have civilizations prior to their development. So
okay. Here I want to
the idea of a creator God isn't even present
uh-huh.
among many polytheistic religions, and in fact, arguably the Hebrew scriptures were not written with the concept of a creator God who creates out of nothing. Again, the proper translation of Genesis 1:1 does not suggest that like creation was out of nothing. And in fact, Aristotle didn't believe that God had created out of nothing. Aristotle thought the universe had always existed.
I think, Dr. Kurt, I think these are different claims. Like,
well, no, he's saying that every single human has the idea that there's a creator who made everything, and that's just not demonstrated.
I think he's saying God, right? So Truth Matters, I'll let you clarify. Is your argument that every human inherently believes in something supernatural, like an entity like God, or that every human believes that there is an anthropomorphic creator God?
Yeah. My argument is somehow is the same way. I mean, like my claim is that if we see the human history, then we get to the point. Even we can do experiment today. Today we can do, and people did. Like some years ago, some people I mean, I read in a book that they did an experiment that they took some people that they were like out of this socialized world. I mean, like in a jungle, whatever. So those people, then they ask them that, what do you believe? They don't know what is Quran, what is Bible, nothing they know. So they just ask them with their human common sense that, do you think that there is a power or God or something? So let's take the word power, that who made this. They say that we don't know about anything, that who created whatever, but it seems there is a power behind. Yeah, who designed
Okay.
our human heart, who
I
give
don't.
us wisdom.
You know,
Anything can happen
let
automatically.
me try to steel man your argument.
No,
I
just a
don't- I
second.
don't-
Just a second.
Okay.
Truth. Let's be as
Uh-huh.
charitable as possible and say that your position is correct, that this universal perception exists, which I dispute, but I'm going to add arguendo, say that it is a thing. Even if it is a thing, it's universal for primitive people to think tables are solid and they don't have any spaces between the things that make them up. It's universal for people to believe that a pencil bends when you put it in water if they're not like educated about optics. Like it's universal for people to think that rainbows have physical substance. But that doesn't have any bearing on the reality of the case.
Okay, I got you. So then I'm going to come up with some question like as a believer of a power that who came from nothing, and everything starts from him, and he was the only uncreated, and he created every single thing, and beside him everything is creation. Now the thing is, like, as a human being, I have a question. No matter I'm a Muslim and I believe in Islam, and so the thing is, like, as a fair person, not as a born Muslim, that because I believe that no matter what, in which religion I got birth, but whoever the power is, he gave me wisdom and brain. I can use my common sense, a brain. I'm not a very intelligent man, but at least a
Okay,
common man. I
truth
work, I
matters.
drive, I do.
All
Yeah,
of
yeah.
this is question begging. You're not demonstrating anything. You're asserting a bunch of things. Can you start from first principles and demonstrate something?
How about this? Odin, do you want to refine the argument and like add anything to it?
Uh, okay,
And
I mean, like,
we're bringing really quick. We're bringing back BBN to the stage because I'm
mhm,
glad you're here, BBN, and it's nice to chat with you. But can you
mhm.
just try and test something so I can see that your mic works and that you can hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we could hear you before too, but it seems like you couldn't hear us.
Yeah, I had it on mute, I thought, because I was finishing up at work.
Well, I'm glad you're here, BBN. We've talked a lot on that what's the other channel? We Are Warriors.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are the warriors.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
are the Warriors. We are Charlie Kirk.
So can I proceed?
Well, all right. So, do you want Odin? Do you want to take Truth Matters argument and maybe like steelman it a little better than I did?
I think maybe what he's trying to get to or argue is that human beings seem to be of the general disposition to believe in the supernatural. Not necessarily like one specific god, but more so they have a tendency to kind of have certain experiences that would be amongst like along that nature. And so I think that's basically what he's saying is like, hey, the majority of
Okay,
humans have these specific dispositions and
if
experiences.
just a second, if that's
Sure.
true, when do you think the word supernatural first shows up?
What's the relevance of the word
Well, you
showing
say
up?
humans believe in it, so the word should be highly primitive, right?
Not
Uh-huh.
necessarily. You can have an experience
If
of something and
yeah, I
not
would argue
necessarily
that
have a
it's showing
word
up late would
for it.
underscore the point.
It's showing up late would underscore that it was a primitive concept.
Yeah, because it parsing out natural versus supernatural implies that there are, that there are things, there's categories of agency. But go ahead, Kurt. I mean, like, what's?
Well,
I'll let you finish your argument.
The
Mr. Sen,
the distinction between natural and supernatural only existed once there was the concept of a natural that was governed by observed regularities, which is a very late concept.
Well, I mean, I think truth matters. I think it's an intriguing argument. I think where it may fall flat for some people is people can always posit that there are other evolutionary reasons why belief in the supernatural came to be, such as belief of like looking at a bush and seeing agency. Like that may have been something that was protective to a degree, right? In other words, like it may have helped us anticipate harms. And so some of those evolutionary factors may have favored. I think it's an interesting argument. I don't think it's totally without merit. I see where it might not be persuasive to people once they realize that there are other evolutionary mechanisms that could have produced a proclivity to believe in the supernatural. Does that make sense?
Again, the distinction between natural and supernatural as like an actual category distinction is very late. Most people in the culture that spawned most religions did not see a bright line between visionary experiences and regular experiences. And that was the case for the people who wrote most of the sacred texts.
I would disagree with that, Dr. Kurt. I think that's a very, very different claim. In other words, you're claiming that people who wrote the relevant Bible passages didn't understand that there were differences between physical experiences and visionary experiences. I think that's a very, very different claim. But I know this claim has been made a lot, like the sort of idea that the culture is
They didn't say there's no difference. They thought they were both veridical experiences of real things.
And again, I don't agree with that. I mean, for instance, in the first century, in the turn of the millennium, around the time of Jesus, there was this widespread understanding that divinely inspired prophecy was not something that existed anymore, that the time of the prophets had elapsed, that it was no longer. So people weren't walking around saying, I had a dream and therefore this thing is real. This is a common misconception. In other words, people did not think that their dreams were divinely inspired. If they had a vision, it was not something that they said this is from God. That was largely discredited by around the time of the turn of the millennium. And this is actually supported by very good scholarship on both sides of the argument.
The turn of which millennium?
The first millennium.
So what was the word the Greeks used to describe something that was supernatural?
I'm not fluent in Greek.
Okay. What was the word that is translated into English for that? What's the English word that the Greek translators used when they translated the Bible to describe something that was supernatural?
Well, Dr. Kurt, what you could just make your point. Like, I don't know which word you're referring to.
You're saying that this was a bright line that the writers of the New Testament had, and I disagree. And again,
yeah, and let me underscore the historical evidence that supports it. That evidence is that there are a number of Jewish writings around the idea that there was no more divine prophecy to guide the Jews in the time of the first century. In fact, this was widely acknowledged. If you read Second Maccabees, it's there. If you read Josephus, it's there as well. If you read Second Lamentations, Second Baruch, all these books all converge on this idea that the era of divine prophecy was over by the first century of the first millennium.
And yet they were all written in that era, and they all were regarded as sacred texts.
But they were not. They all underscore. So these are not sacred texts. Like, for instance, I don't think Second Baruch is a sacred text. I may be wrong about it. I don't think that's canonical. But the point
I didn't say canonical. I said sacred.
The point of this, but the point of this, all these stories that are in the Jewish Talmud, which is again not canonical, was to underscore that the era of prophecies was over. And they write about this. It's a lamentation that they write. The era of prophecy is over. Prophecy has been given over to fools and children. This is a common Jewish refrain.
Yes, there are many common Jewish refrains. There was an entire sect of Jews that didn't believe in the resurrection. But that doesn't mean that it was universal.
But we have writings that suggest that this was the belief at the time, and we don't have.
We have some writings that suggest that was the belief of some people.
And we don't have any writings to the contrary.
Actually, that's false. We have writings to the contrary. We have the existence of sects of Jews that believed in prophecy and the continuation of the prophetic message. The Dead Sea Scrolls are one such group.
But they did not believe that any of the prophecies that were recent in temporal proximity to their era were veridical.
You don't think they thought the teacher of righteousness was getting direct communication of revelation?
I don't believe that they did.
Well, how would you come to that conclusion?
By reading the relevant Talmudic passages.
So who are the sons of light getting the light from?
I don't know. I mean, but I'm not. But you've read the books of Qumran. But Dr. Kurt, it is a fact that most of the Jewish writings that we have from that era were lamentations about the era of prophecy being over. And that, look, the point is this.
So you're saying that in the wisdom of Solomon.
No, wait a second, Dr. Kurt. Your point. You're making an affirmative argument in this sense, right? You're making an affirmative argument, and your argument is that the people in this time could not distinguish between dreams and prophecies. And
I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth. That is not what I said.
Okay, what's the central?
I said they had no concept of the supernatural as in a separate ontology from the ontology that they experience. When Paul what I'm saying is says he may have gone to the third heaven in the body, or maybe not in the body. He's not saying he didn't really go to heaven.
Okay, but your argument doesn't
the exact mechanism.
That's fine, but your argument doesn't hold for at least all the Jews. If you're saying it holds for this one sect, then that's an argument. Okay, but it clearly doesn't hold for all sects of Jews in the first century.
Again, there's no single belief that you can apply to every single person at a given moment in time.
But you're applying that. Wait a second. You're applying that belief, Dr. Kurt. You're applying that belief. You're making a claim that this belief was present.
Look, I live in a time where the word supernatural has meaning and exists as part of a common parlance, but I don't believe it exists. I think it's wrong. But that doesn't
Well,
mean that it's not like a
open it
definable
back up
concept in my
let's
era.
open it back up to the panel. But here's my point, Dr. Kurt. You are making an affirmative claim. So if you're saying my claim is heterogeneous and as it was heterogeneously held to, then that's very different than saying that the people at that time did not understand the difference.
Well, you'd have to demonstrate someone who makes a clear distinction between
And I've demonstrated that this was a common Talmudic refrain.
Okay, where in the Talmud are they
prophecy was
distinguishing
over.
between natural events? First of all, Talmud is 400 to 500 years after the time of Christ, so it's not really germane here. But
Well,
where
it
in like
reflects a
first or
contemporaneous
second century
understanding that
literature are they saying there's a distinction between natural events and non-natural events or supernatural events?
Well, let's turn it back over to the panel because I do want to engage other people and bring other people on. I want to bring BBN in, and I haven't given enough of the floor to Max. And besides, this all started with Truth Matters argument, so I'll happily kick it back to him. So let's hear from some other people.
I just don't think the vocabulary argument being presented is even relevant. They don't need to have a word.
So you agree they
order for
don't
them
have a
to-
word?
I mean, I'm not
I think
agreeing or
his point is it's
disagreeing
not
what I'm
relevant
saying.
whether or not
I'm
they
saying
do
it's
have a word.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
saying
they have
it's
a word they
relevant.
use all the time, which is spiritual.
I mean, I don't even think they even would use that word either.
No, they use
I'm
that word
saying-
all the time.
Sure.
Well,
but
let's
it's-
let no, wait a second. Let's let BBN present the argument first before we argue against what he's saying mid sentence.
Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that not BBN? Was that coming from who was that? I don't know who that was coming from. Then.
I am BBN, but I wasn't talking.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go to Truth Matters to go back to the argument. So we went on a big side tangent on whether or not there was a word for this and whether or not that even matters. But Truth Matters. Let's get back to the core of your argument.
Here I want to just share something like on the behalf of a common sense that as a Muslim I'm told. So the thing is that I according to the last Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he told in a hadith that Allah Azza wa Jal, the supreme being, the only true God Almighty, he revealed on him that he was a hidden treasure. There was nothing beside him, and he was a hidden treasure. Then he decided to reveal
He was sorry. What's that word? He was a hidden what?
hidden treasure. Yeah, I'm trying to put English words on my language. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to work or not. But I mean, like he was the Arabic word is kuntu kanzul muhfiya, that I was a hidden treasure. That's my translation. I don't know if it's correct or not. But Arabic word is kuntu kanzul muhfiya. I was the only hidden treasure. There was nothing beside me. Then what? Then Allah decided that He's going to do creation. So then He did countless creations. Then he made a background that He's going to create a very high. He's going to create one of the highest intelligence creation. So it's going to be the humans. Then He installed software. Every creation has a software. Like let's suppose if I take a chicken and I try to throw it in a river, whatever, he's not gonna to swim. So that's because the chicken is not created in his software that he's gonna do. So but the ducks, so it's I mean like
Can you
it's a translated
Truth Matters? I think people are in the chat are asking, can you spell the word triude?
triode.
Yeah, hidden triude.
No, triode, not triode.
Can you spell it?
Treasure, khazana, treasure. I think that's the spellings. Treasure.
Oh, treasure. He was a hidden treasure.
Treasure. Yeah,
okay.
hidden treasure, like yeah. So he was the only power. Yeah, at there was a point that he was I'm using the word he. It doesn't mean he has a gender that he's he. So he has no gender, male, female, nothing. So but as for the sake of conversation, we need to use the word he. He's not he, is not she, nothing. He's without gender. Even
Sure,
the
I understand. Yeah, the English pronouns
yeah, yeah.
tend to be
Even
contested,
the
yeah.
gender is his creation. Like that's the way he choose that to make that male female. Yeah, like Allah says that. And
Can you try and distill down your argument one more time?
So what I'm doing, I'm just quoting a hadith, And my point is that this hadith make more sense for me. I don't say that it's going to make sense for everybody, but I think it makes very sense for me. Like what we are
And
told.
which hadith is it? Maybe I can just pull it up.
Oh, then I need to give you the reference. Can I give you the reference at the end? If I just want to.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
let me bring it up to let me we're a little bit let me bring in BBN because I did want to get back to BBN and Max I want you to feel free to like chime in and ask questions as well. We've been kind of hopscotching around, but BBN, do
Brother
you want to
Sam.
introduce yourself a little bit more? And
Yeah, hello. My name's BBN. You guys can call me that. That's cool. I'm joining. I've talked to Tavo a lot on another live stream. He's a really cool dude. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on. I don't. I'll chime in when I can about meta. I'm not very big into the meta of religion. I know that's. I don't know if that's predominantly what goes on tonight on Monday nights or not. So I'm just kind of letting everybody do their thing. I just got some questions for Tavo whenever he gets a moment.
let's do some of your questions. Macintosh Pro, by the way, says like and subscribe to the scribe. So please support the channel. I'd really love that. And BBN, do you have a channel?
I have a channel that I am looking to convert into like more like this type of stuff. It's called My AI and I. Originally, it was just me doing a podcast with AI talking about subjects. So now I'm thinking about kind of converting that and keeping it the same, but like using like me, like versus like me and AI discussing these subjects with different people.
Okay, I'll check that out. I'll sub to your channel right now, and then I'll put it in the chat after.
Brother Sam, I pull up the reference and I want to read in Arabic and English as well.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do one of BBN's questions, and then we'll come back to Truth Matters if that's okay.
Okay.
Did you want to ask me a question?
Yeah, just really quick. Sorry, me. I thought you said me. Sorry.
Yeah, BBN. And I just subbed to your channel. I put it in the chat as well. So.
Hey, appreciate that. That's up to you as well.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah. Go ahead. Ask away. Because these Monday streams are basically like kind of an ask me anything type situation.
Okay. Cool. I know a little bit about your background, what the information you showed me. I just have a quick question, and then kind of like branching off of that. My first question here is, how do you feel about things like peer review and like giving out like Nobel prizes? Do you value these things as like in the academic world?
Yeah, I mean, I actively participate in peer review, so
Sure.
I like peer review. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's pretty good. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, right. What about like Nobel prizes? Do you think that they're like? Do you think it's just a bunch of guys giving out awards, or do you think it's like a valuable thing?
Honestly, the only Nobel Prize that I follow is like math and physics, so I don't know. Like I don't know about the other ones, but I assume it's not too political. I mean, I guess there's some errors that I could think of. Who is the guy? There was a guy who like didn't get a Nobel Prize, and they put out a full page ad in the New York Times about how he got cheated out of a Nobel Prize.
Donald Trump?
Dan Marino?
No, it was not. It was not. It was over something medical imaging
yeah.
related.
Yeah.
Anyways, somebody can look that up and fact check and say who put out a full page New York Times. Anyways, my answer would be that seems meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure before I go on, and because like if I bring up some of these things, then and you don't value these, things, then it's just worthless.
Well, I mean,
but
anything can be an
I mean,
argument from authority, but I mean, I think you'll bring up important points.
there's a known problem with Nobel Prize winners, which is that they often go on to become complete nutballs.
yeah, I mean, I don't know
Hey,
what
you
the
saying
statistics on that
Obama's a
really.
nutball?
But I don't know statistics on that really, but it's irrelevant because the way I value it, these academic things, I don't hold them to any type of like they're the end all be all per se, and they're not. I don't hold them to like there can't be flaws, but I do hold this like I think the academic world wants to know the truth about things, and I think and like some people don't feel that way, and I don't really understand why, but I think the reason they usually feel that way is because the thing they value isn't being like listened to, and it's because there's no evidence and not a good enough good evidence for it. So, but all that being said, I think the academic world truly wants to know the truth. I don't think they suppress things. I don't think that I'm not talking about an individual. I'm talking about the scope of the academic world. There's been plenty of times where even you can look up scientists that proposed things that were kind of mocked, ridiculed, and then they turned out to be right. And a lot of people even put these pedestals like they ruin their career. Usually not even true. It's usually lies. But my point being here is I love having these discussions, and I love having these getting somewhere. But what usually throws me over the edge, and which is one of the reasons I'm not going back to this, or at least much back to the previous person that me and Tavo go to, because they're very just not good faith, we'll say. Um, but it's I love these conversations. I'm willing to hear anybody's conversation, but at the end of the day, to me, if you really got some strong evidence for something, do something with it. Write a peer review, or write a paper, get it peer reviewed. It's not like hold on. If you got something to say, people will listen. If you got proof, people will listen. If you got proof of really astonishing stuff, you can win Nobel prizes. And I just don't understand where this attitude of where that comes from. I'm not saying anyone here. I don't know anyone here but Tavo. So, but what do you think much about that, Tavo?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think sometimes the scientific literature goes in a direction of saying things that are wrong, and it sometimes goes in that direction for a long time. But I think, over time, as evidence mounts, people can change their minds. And I don't think there's a cabal that decides, that things are going to get discredited. In other words, if the argument is, I don't believe in evolution because there's all this research against evolution and it just hasn't been, it's being suppressed. I think that's the argument. That's sort of in the vein of the argument that you're referring to.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, kind of. I'll go on.
Yeah. I want to take part a few more minutes, then I want to leave. Yeah, because
Oh, sure. Go
yeah,
ahead, Truth. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I want to present something. I mean, actually, I'm going to put some question. If someone doesn't believe in God, okay, God, a power, or supreme being, whatever word we can choose, okay. So the point is, he doesn't believe in a power or a God. So the thing is, then we comes up with hundreds of questions, thousands of questions, I don't know when I've been living in my mom's home for 9 months and what was happening over there. Nobody knows. Even when someone is 6 months old or 1 year old, nobody remember that. So the thing is, so who decided? No angel came in my mom's home who giving me a catalog, and he said, "Oh well, these are the color. So I have a straight hairs and I have the curly hairs. I have a crooked nose. I have a straight nose, and I have a blue color eye." So how it doesn't make any sense at all that there is no God. There is a power behind
Can
who created, who
sorry,
designed.
Truth. Can you restate the argument? I want to make sure people are understanding it.
Yeah, so my argument is about those people who claims or believe whatever the word is that there is no God. So I mean, then we have thousand of questions. Who decide? I never decided if it was
Okay,
in
a
my
bunch of
hand.
questions is not an argument.
My argument is how it happens.
That's a
How someone
question.
gets blue.
A question
My
starts with a
question.
word like how, when, where, or why.
How someone gets blue eye
That's a
or black?
question.
How it happens? That's the question. How it happens?
How they get blue or
An
black? What?
argument starts with a series of propositions that lead to a conclusion.
Well, I actually it's probably my fault, but I didn't. Can you try one more time? How somebody gets blue or black? What? Truth?
Yeah. So that's one of the questions.
No. How they get blue or black? What eyes? Is that what you're talking about?
So many, I mean, how someone get black color in the skin, how someone get the white color, someone gets it's not like
You
that
understand we know
coincidentally.
exactly how that happens.
What's
Like
that?
we know down to the detail of where the pigment shows up in their cells and which cells it does.
No, no,
That
no,
is a
that's not the
fully
point.
known thing.
No, that's not my point. My point is that anybody who has any eye color like blue, how it happened, some
We
people
know
will
how that
people will get.
happens too.
You're not, but I don't think that's what you mean. You're not saying literally we don't understand how people would get blue eye color, because that's not what you're saying, right? Truth.
My point is that I mean I don't think so. It can be a big bang or a coincidence. Some people came into existence and millions of creations, and their design and their eye and everything is perfect. And then we have a, I mean, elephant. Why he has a specific height, specific eyesight, and their
I,
purpose.
I, I think
This
I'm missing
There's
the
no
argument
argument
here.
here.
Well, Odin, is there some way to strongman this?
that's my question. That's my
No, I
question.
haven't heard a single argument. All you're doing is expressing personal incredulity at the contrary position without describing what it is you can't understand.
Okay, let me try again. I mean, we had two groups. One group who believe, and they put everything on God's hand. They say that's His will. He created whatever the color, whatever the height, whatever the
So
size,
how is
whatever the
that an
software.
explanation? What does that explain?
I mean, like I right now, I'm just presenting a case. I mean, that's the thing.
But I'm
Now the
asking
other
you,
group,
what does that explain? How does that help me understand the world?
I think I cannot go deeply, but I was using my common sense. My point is that it doesn't make sense that everything happens without any reason, and things are there, and Big Bang Theory, and there was a blast and everything came in. So and then we don't have we don't have answer of thousand of questions, like what's the
So
purpose
you
of a
have
human being? Why
personal
we are.
incredulity about things that actually, if you did research, you would be able to find out the exact details of. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, okay. So I again try. Why how it happens that we human have different skin colors, different
We
eyes?
know exactly
Who
how that
designed?
happens. That is known.
Yeah,
My
that
point is
is
not that there is a big.
objectively truth. Those are things that we know how they happen.
No. I mean, like you are referring to the scientifically, that what's the science behind? I say that science is created by the God. So it's not a coincidence that we human got
Okay,
into existence.
demonstrate that. Show why. Show how you know that.
I'm trying to intercede in a way that strengthens the argument, truth, but I feel like this is a pretty tenuous, because you're just saying, like, how do we have eye color? How do we have skin color, skin pigmentation?
No, not scientifically how. Like, what's the science behind? That's not my question. My question is, whatever the science behind, my point is there is a power behind who designed this. He
Okay,
chose to give
demonstrate
what.
that.
By the way, I know Shadow tried to
But
join,
sir,
and
Mr.
Shadow
Third,
will try
I
and bring
have a
you up
question.
soon.
I mean, like if let's suppose I cannot explain due to some
So you don't
language
know
barrier.
that there's a power behind it if you can't demonstrate it. You
But
think,
I
you're
mean,
guessing, you hope, you have a hunch.
no, but the people who doesn't believe in God, how they define this, that how it happens.
And by
What's
the
their
way,
point
I
of
know,
view?
just really quick, just as a matter of housekeeping, Shadow, I know you're in the studio. We'll bring you up as soon as somebody hops off the panel.
Mhm.
So we just have one person waiting right now. But I guess, truth, I think I see what you're saying. You're not asking, like, how did this happen? You're asking why it happens, and maybe you're trying to sort of like think in a more broadly metaphysical
Yeah.
way.
My point is more with why. That why? Okay, my simple question for those who
Again, we
don't
have
believe in
like
God.
pretty good reasons for why there are pigmentation differences between human beings and why there are varying eye colors. Like those are things people have studied.
Yeah, I
No,
mean
bro.
that's a valid
You're
that's a
more your emphasizes to
No,
explain
we have
how
an
it happened.
explanation for why, not just how. Why?
Truth, are you asking why does life exist? Is that what you're ultimately asking?
Okay, let me go with the first question. Why we human exist? What is our purpose of life? My question, what is the purpose of life of a human being? Are we just animal, we earn money and we die?
Why
Is
would
that
the
the
well.
word
story?
just, why
Let me
would you
do.
need to put the word just in front of animal?
What's that?
If we are animals, we're animals. There's no reason for the word just. We are animals, right? So
Yeah, we're animals.
do animals that are related to humans have a pancreas?
No. Argument is going somewhere else. Yeah.
No.
My
You're
question
making an
is
argument. Are we just animals? And I'm saying, why is that
no,
needed
no,
just?
no.
Well, all
Even
right.
that's
Here, let
not
me.
my claim. I don't think that humans are animal. That's what the people
Well,
say
okay,
that.
so let's demonstrate that. Do animals generally have a pancreas?
Yeah.
I think you
Do
mean
humans
mammal.
have a pancreas?
Yeah, mammals.
Thank you. A body part.
Do humans
You're
have a
talking.
pancreas?
I hope I'm understanding correct. You are referring organ pancreas.
Yeah. The pancreas, the
Uh-huh.
thing that makes insulin and the thing that makes digestive enzymes.
Uh-huh.
Do
Okay.
organisms have one typically if they're related to us?
If that pancreas,
Yes, they
your
do,
question,
right? And they also
I
have a
think the answer
liver,
is that
and they
God
have
created the
lungs
endocrine
and
pancreas
muscles
and
and bones
evolution
and
created
blood
the
vessels
exocrine
and
pancreas.
brains. So how do you think we're different?
we're different. We
How?
come up with.
In what way?
We have a high. No other creation has highest intelligence as we human
No
have.
other creation has a higher what?
Highest
Intelligent.
intelligence,
Okay,
and
what
no
is
other creation
intelligence?
has a double will.
What is intelligence?
Brother, whatever then, there is no other
What is
creation
it?
who goes to the moon.
Define it for me so I know what you're saying.
Let's suppose that's the only creation we know, which is the human, which have higher.
Oh, for God's
High,
sake, you're circularly defining it. You're saying intelligence is humanity. Okay, that's
no,
not
no, no,
helpful.
no. My point
What are
is
the
there
characteristics of intelligence?
whatever the characteristic? I'm giving an example. Like, is
You
there any
don't
other
know the characteristics then. So it
brother?
can't be the defining characteristic because you don't even have an ability to describe it.
Yeah, due to some language barrier as well. But my point is there, if that's a point, then is there we know any other besides humans? Do we see know any other creation who can go to the moon, who build F-35 and the fighter jet? Nope,
So you're
that's
saying
only
it's our
human being.
ability to construct technical things that is our
Yeah,
intelligence? In other words,
yeah.
humans were not intelligent until the last century.
I mean, that is a real
And there is a
observation.
reason. Yeah,
There's
Are you
no.
saying prior to the ability to go to the moon, humans were unintelligent?
but if we go like so
Truth.
many
I asked you a really simple question. Were humans unintelligent prior to going to the moon?
no,
Okay, so intelligence has nothing to do with going to the moon, right?
no. I mean, it's not a new intelligence.
Let's
This
just do
is
some quick.
exhausting. You
Let's do
can't
some
like
quick.
define your
How?
term.
How? People 3,000 years ago, they were constructing the building. I mean, like, they were awesome. Even
Okay,
Yeah.
those people
1,000
were
of
intelligent, yet they made like disastrously bad constructions that fell apart and killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Thanks,
So
by the way, to TNC Apologetics, who says like and subscribe. I really do appreciate the support. And by the way, youtube.com/@TNC Apologetics, really great channel as well. And in fact, Macintosh Pro is highlighting that channel. We do have Shadow, so if anyone wants to jump off, we'll bring up Shadow.
yeah,
but,
I'm just about at my limit. I'm gonna bump off, but
okay, Dr. Kurt, really good to see
I
you.
did want to talk to what's his name about this before he goes.
Dr.
Not-
Kurt, it's really good to see you, Dr. Kurt. And if
Yeah.
let's do a talking with Tavo sometime where we have
Sure.
a one-on-one conversation. I really
yeah,
love that.
just email me or something.
Dr.
Okay.
Kerr, can I ask you one quick question before you head out? Just real
Sure.
quick. In Star Trek, the transporter, does it kill you when it transfers you? Or
good question.
does it rebuild
Yes.
you?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, it kills you as you're known. Yep, 100%.
Unquestionably.
All right, that's all I gotta ask.
All right.
Please.
That's a really interesting question philosophically. There's a lot of stuff that's been written about that. All right,
Hell yeah.
let's bring up Shadow now. And I mean, Truth, I think like I really respect the argument that you're trying to make. I think it's not quite honed into
I want to say something about it when you're done.
yeah, I guess well, I honestly, Truth, I think it's just not that great an argument. I'm not saying it
brother,
can't be
brother,
honed.
Tavo, I'm just going to find a statement and then I'm going to move, and so somebody can get opportunity to be there on my place. So the thing is, I'm one thing I feel like it's giving me a huge tough time. Like I don't know how much ability I have to speak. As not, I repeat again and again that I'm not a native, but I consider this it's a success for me. At least I'm engaging with you guys and trying to understand, and I'm improving my language as well.
No, I'm really glad
So
you're here. I thought you had really great points, and I hope we chat again. I'd really love that.
yeah, and the thing is, like my conversation with Mr. Kurt. So I was observing, like I'm asking question, and
I think I think he prefers Dr. Kurt, but yeah. But
yeah, yeah, and
let's open
I'm
it up a
getting
little. Let's open it up a little bit to the rest of the channel because I think Shadow is logging in saying that they've got some questions for me, and BBN I think had some more questions for me as well. And by the way, there's another BBN who's entered the studio. So are you still here, BBN? I think BBN left and then re-entered. Now he's still
okay,
stuck
brother.
here.
Brother Tavo, I'm gonna leave for someone. Yeah, so they can
All
proceed. Yeah,
right, take care, Truth.
Good
yeah.
to see you,
Thank you
Peter.
very much.
Tavo,
Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed day. Have a
I
Hey,
blessed
actually
night.
came up to pepper you to basically be your Satan for the day.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I think BBN had some questions and Shadow had some questions. So let's do at least a couple of your questions in the meantime.
Not a
okay.
problem.
And
Is
we do have a
Truth
spot if somebody wants to hop up as well.
is Truth still here?
I think Truth is still here, but I'm sure they'll drop off in a second.
Okay. Well, I mean, if he's not here, I mean, I kind of like, I feel like, I mean, I know what, I've heard this argument a lot, like why are humans different, like compared to other animals. So I just kind of wanted to speak on that.
Oh, sure,
Um,
sure, sure. We'd love that.
it's like, yeah, we just, like there's lots of intelligence out there. I mean, we see it with chimps, we see it with octopuses, dolphins, whales, um some intense intelligences, some intense emotions, like but the thing about humans, like we got a lot of good faculties, you know um it wasn't just like you look at a chimp, they got a lot of the stuff we do. The few things they're missing, like brain size, that's a big issue, but even then the real thing they're missing is a precision grip. If they had a precision grip, they could go a lot further, like than they're even going right now. Their precision grip, they don't have that. We have that. That's one of the things that allows us to craft and make so many great things. You know what I mean? So we got, I just say it, without lack of a better term, we just got very lucky on all of the things. We just got like a lot of things that allowed us to do what we're doing right now. So like just like I said, like a dolphin, a squid, a whale. If you really look at these animals and study the biology, they're very intensely emotional creatures, and they speak. Like we're starting to learn more and more about whales and how they speak. It's like so complicated that they've like said it's almost in rhyme. It's a very deep thing. So that's what I was like. I don't know if he's still listening, but I hope he is, to kind of like get the point through that I would like to say.
Yeah, there are actually forms of intelligence where chimpanzees far
Hello?
Yeah,
I can't hear y'all. If y'all can
okay.
hear me.
Oh, I can hear you still, BBN. Can you hear me? Oh, I think you lost your audio again. I'm going to kick BBN and then bring him back if he reboots his audio because I think we lost him again. But I know Shadow has some questions for me too, so feel free to ask any questions, Shadow, and we'll bring BBN back up when he rejoins. Shadow, did you have any questions for me? Oh, I guess okay. Well, Odin, you're welcome to ask me any questions, or Smokey, feel free to introduce yourself and say hi, and we'll keep opening it up.
Yeah, how's it going? Did you forget me already?
No, I'm glad you're up here, Smokey. Yeah, nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too. Yeah. I was just stopping
can you hear me?
in to say hi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was hoping to catch Kurt. I can never seem to really catch Kurt. I should, but one of these days,
Yeah, yeah. Well, Shadow, you're live too. If you want to ask me any questions, we can hear you. I think you just asked. So this is kind of an ask me anything thing that we do every Monday. So anyone can pop up and ask me any questions that you have.
I just have one question, and you don't have to like expand on it like completely, because maybe depending on your answer, I wouldn't mind actually sitting down with you to try to get you to change your mind.
Oh, sure, I'd love that. Yeah.
Why is it that you hold? I don't know how much of the Old Testament you hold as allegory, But why do you hold it as allegory and not actual people and not actual events that took place?
Um, I mean, I think there are a few reasons. Number one, I think to me the whole Garden of Eden story probably didn't really happen. I mean, I guess there's maybe some nucleus of truth there to most of it, but the flood narrative probably didn't happen as Christian fundamentalists think of it. I think again, there's probably some nucleus of truth. There might have been a huge cataclysmic flood. That's certainly possible, and there were floods in the ancient world, so it's certainly possible that we have that some of those are records. I don't know. I don't know this was like a global flood. That's sort of harder to reconcile with the available scientific information that we have. Um, I think probably some parts of Exodus were true, but probably they're so old that they're lost from the historical record. Um, I mean, I could be probably moved one way or another, but I think the point is, I mean, I think the historical argumentation for everything in the New Testament is much more persuasive. I think there is some historical argumentation to be made for some of the things in the Old Testament, but when you go really old or really metaphorical, I think it's harder for me to justify that. But there's not like a fine line where I say anything that meets this criteria is allegorical and anything that meets this criteria is literal. I think there's probably some components of literal historical memory that are important, and there's some components of allegorical sort of lessons to be told. For instance, like I don't think the story of Job is probably. I doubt that literally happened. Is that what you're talking about, or where do you stand on this stuff?
I think it all happened personally.
You think even Adam and Eve, the snake, Garden of Eden?
Yeah, I think all of it happened. Um, so I guess my other question is it like an issue of um, like having reconciling it with our current understanding of the world, basically?
Well, I think it's also the fact that it's something that we've moved so much on. In other words, like one of the things that I did when I made my CTF argument is I looked at 17 different religions and I sort of evaluated their fragility. In other words, how much have they changed recently in kind of acquiescence or capitulation to modern pressures? And when I looked at that, I found that there's actually a lot of stuff in Christianity that really has not changed very much. And if anything, the Christian perspective has gotten more fundamentalist on average. But every other religion, almost every other religion, not quite every other religion, but almost every other religion has really capitulated or contextualized itself or recontextualized itself in the face of a changing, more secular understanding of the world. Now, for Christianity, 2,000 years ago, it started off with the perspective that things in the Old Testament were allegorical. Essentially, that was kind of the thinking at the time. And in modern times, it sort of like remains that way. So
So you're of the position that Christianity or Christians back then, essentially Messianic Jews mostly, thought that their Old Testament and history were allegorical.
yeah, yeah. In fact, like
That's your
the
view.
school of Alexandria was probably the biggest contingent of Jews in the classical antiquity era before Christianity. And we seem to have pretty good records that those Jews in the school of Alexandria did think that the Old Testament was allegorical.
Sure.
That's from Philo
I
and the
mean,
Alexandria school.
I mean, there are different sects of Jews, right? And they all have different beliefs, right? So, I mean, I'm not surprised, but why not focus on the other sects that actually hold to the belief that their history, their relationship with God, the people who essentially put the foundation in place for their religion, like, why is it you don't focus on, in my opinion, they seem to be the clear majority here. They might differ on some theological things, but they're not going to deny their actual past and forefathers.
Well,
Not even
let me
Jesus would
say
do that.
there's two reasons. Reason number one is I think Jesus gives us a rubric that you can be sort of a big picture reader of the Bible, right? And he says, like, all the laws of Moses, all the laws in the Old Testament essentially hang off of these two rules. Love God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind, and love each other as much as you love yourselves. So I think that is a distillation, so I think it doesn't really, in other words, through that perspective, if I use that perspective as a lens, as a hermeneutical key, then it becomes more important to me that I actualize those two commandments than I really get into the weeds about how much of each part of the Old Testament is true. I think the records of the New Testament are so good that they become somewhat hard to deny in my mind. I think the records of the Old Testament are at least so spotty that it's harder to sort of reconcile what is true and what isn't. Now, I will say this: Lawrence McKittick is a scholar who actually looked at the Old Testament and the New Testament together and said how many people and how many places are real things in the Old Testament and the New Testament. And it's actually quite stunning how many there are. So how many are real people and real places that historians think really did happen, right? Now, there's no comparable work for any other theological canon. And the reason for that is because no other theological canon has a similar set of historical claims that is as detailed. So I find that to be sort of an interesting data point in and of itself. But again, my big reason is we have a distillation from Jesus, and then I don't know that we have. I can't find any literature from Jews in the turn of the millennium who said that these are literal things that we believe that they happened literally. In other words, I don't really like find a lot of documentation of that in the ancient world.
Wouldn't that be strange though, if you're already at the disposition that that your whole culture and your forefathers and everything is real, you wouldn't need to write any literature to say that it's real. Like, it's kind of
but we do have the contrary viewpoint, and that's actually fairly well attested. In other words, we have the School of Alexandria that were pretty specific about these things are allegorical. And then we have many other Christian early fathers who said, yeah, this is all allegorical stuff. So we have stuff that points in one direction. We don't really have stuff that points in the other direction.
Yeah, but not having stuff pointing in the other direction doesn't necessarily mean that the other direction is not real, right? Especially considering that I'm pretty sure if you were to poll most of those people that's associated within that said religion, they believe that their actual history and their forefathers were real people.
Yeah. Well, let's bring in Smokey. Let's bring in Smokey.
Can I just say? Let me just say one more quick thing. Sure. I wrote a paper. I'm kind of refining a few things on the Exodus account and the Joshua conquest. And when I'm finished with it, I'm going to send it to you, and I want you to give me your thoughts. I know I already sent you a bunch of papers. My bad, but
no, they're great. They're really fantastic. And we got to get into that stuff. It's really fantastic.
But yeah, I am going to send you that paper, and I want you to let me know what you think. But I'm sorry, Smokey. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's all good. That's an interesting topic about the allegory too, and I started to lean that way, kind of later on in my life too, about it being kind of allegorical representations instead of like absolute fundamentalist literal history, which is how I was trained and raised, growing up. That was, like you were somehow denying scripture if you didn't take an absolute literalist interpretation. It wasn't until I was much older that I was even made aware that there were other such interpretations that even existed, like old earth or local flood, or things like that. And also on top of that, some really interesting reading is understanding some things about ancient Near East polemics. Like their choice of terms and reference points had cultural context and meaning. Like you even see this in Genesis talking about the chaos waters, which in ancient Near East perspective, many times it was the gods were emerging out of the chaos waters. And the interesting polemic in Genesis is presenting this idea that their deity is beyond the waters. Like he didn't come out of them. He is transcendental to them. I think that's a very interesting thing to kind of emerge in the text, which is pretty unique to ancient Near East cultures. So like trying to look at this through a very fundamentalist literal lens, I think is a very presentist way to look at it. Kind of thinking me and my American, 20th century view of how literature is digested. This is how I think it should be understood. I think that's kind of shallow and doesn't really consider how ancient peoples at that time may have communicated with allegory and symbology. And, Christians don't argue and complain like whether or not, well, most of them, but generally they don't complain about whether or not the parable is a true story or not. As to whether or not they can get a real truth out of it delivered by God. Like they don't sit and argue, oh, well, did this, was there really a lost coin? Like they don't quibble over stuff like that. It doesn't really matter. But somehow when it comes to this kind of like dogmatic view of like ancient Old Testament, like you just somehow have some sort of immediate angst or emotional pretext to not want to possibly even consider the idea that it might not be absolutely fundamentally literal. And I think that's just a weird way to digest any ancient literature, let alone some of the most ancient literature on earth. So that's
a good point, right? Jesus gives these allegories. The waiting wives and all this other stuff, and no one would say, yeah, there were these 10 brides with 10 lamps, and that literally happened. Like he's giving that as an allegory. He's giving it as a lesson.
Right.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, when we say literal, right? Like, how is someone taking something literal, right? Like, are you taking it literally independent of the context in terms of what it's trying to demonstrate? Or are you going to take it literally within the context? Like, I'm an old earth creationist, right? And, when I see, a young earth person would make an argument and say, well, it's talking about, 24-hour days. And I'm like, you do understand that that word can literally be used as a 12-hour day.
4 different definitions, 4 different literal definitions. Yeah.
So right? Can I ask a question here?
Yeah, let me defer to my fellow owl.
The three owls here.
I don't feel special anymore. I don't like this.
There's a lot of owls here.
We do outnumber you, Smokey, because I think we decided there's 2 genera of owls, right? There's the Titanidae and the Strigidae, and you are a Titanidae, and we are both Strigidae.
Yeah.
Racism.
Oh well, I guess maybe I am still special. Then. Maybe it's okay.
By the way, I do want to weigh in on this question about slime mold. Is slime mold smart? This is actually a fantastic and intriguing question. People really do debate whether or not there's some form of decentralized intelligence of slime mold. It does have some fascinating abilities to problem solve. The current thinking is that it can problem solve because of certain like geometric features that we don't yet understand. But the issue of whether slime mold is intelligent is a really fascinating question. I know you're throwing that out probably glibly, but I hope you should look into it. It's really interesting research. All right, go ahead, Kajek.
So it's fine. I actually am totally fine if you just say that the entire Bible is an allegory. That's fine. And you can draw conclusions from a symbolic understanding of it. But as soon as people say the earth was created in like a straightforward way, to say, oh, God created the world, or when people reject macroevolution, that's when Christianity that's when Christianity becomes pro-ignorance, when it says and so it's really tricky to say some parts are allegorical and some parts are not. It becomes a very slippery slope. So That's what I
I don't
wanted to
know.
say.
I think the scriptures are pretty clear whenever it's using allegory from whenever it's not. Um,
Can you give
I
so what about? I mean,
sure you
okay,
can you,
go ahead.
you can look at the parables. You
Well,
can look at
okay, yeah. Outside of the parables, I mean the stuff that it
can
claims
you
actually
let me
happened.
so you can look at, for example, when Isaiah is prophesying against the king of Tyre, right? Like he's not using straight up language, right? It's all allegory in terms of what he's trying to convey, but he's trying to also, he's using something that, for all he knows, something that actually happened in real life. He's not saying, hey, this person who I'm prophesying against is that specific, other person I'm using as an example, right? To show the path that this particular king is going down and what's going to be the consequences of his behavior.
So, can you give me an example of something you believe truly happened in the Bible?
Just a reminder, please subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for the kind words. Go ahead. Sorry.
Something that
Yeah, I think the
that is
Joshua conquest
miraculous.
happened. I think the Exodus happened.
Even though there's no
I
evidence of
think
the Exodus, even though there's
yeah,
no evidence of the
can
Great Flood,
I can show you evidence
even though
of
there's no
the
evidence that Moses was a real person, even
those
though
are
there's no
all
evidence that
claims.
Abraham was a real person, even though
Those
there's
are
no
all
evidence of the
claims.
Well,
Garden of Eden.
Those
KJ,
are all
let him finish.
claims.
Let him finish.
Anyways, yes, I can show those things, but here's the problem, right? If I were to pull up the evidence and show you how all of these evidences link together to show that these specific things actually happened, guess what you're going to do? You're going to reject that evidence.
So I'm not
Why?
allowed to reject evidence. I'm not allowed to
Well,
reject
you're
your
going to
supposed
reject.
evidence.
Yeah, you're going to
You
reject
have
them
the
because
burden
you
of
don't
proof.
like what they're going to lead
Well,
to.
You
I
have
don't
the
know.
So
burden
I
of
don't see
proof,
the
my
point. I don't
friend.
see the point in asking for
I don't.
evidence
I
that
don't
you're
You
going to
have the
ultimately
burden of
reject.
proof. You have the burden of proof.
Well, KJ, wait a second. I don't know that Odin does have the burden of proof here. Let's say his claim is that there was a real historical Moses. Is that something that he has the burden of proof for?
Yes.
Why isn't just the burden of proof sort of the neutral perspective?
He has the burden of proof because he's making the claim that Moses was a real person.
Well, I don't know that carries with it a burden of proof. In other words, it's not a supernatural claim necessarily.
It doesn't need to be a supernatural claim. He's the one making the claim.
Well,
Hey,
let
you're
me
the
just
one
say
who's
that the
saying that
scholarly.
nothing that everything in it is basically should be, held as allegory, right? And the justification for that is because nothing in it is real.
No.
Well, let me.
No. I didn't. There are things that are true in the Bible, of course. It doesn't mean all of it is true. There are true things in the Spider-Man comics. It doesn't mean that
But the
the
Bible
Spider-Man
isn't
the Spider-Man
Bible
comics are
isn't
true.
Spider-Man comics. Spider-Man
There are
was
true
written
things
to
in
be
the
a fictional
Godzilla
story,
comics. There are
right?
true things
But
in the
those were written
Godzilla
to be
movies.
fictional stories.
There are true things in the Godzilla
There's a
movies.
difference. There's a difference between people writing down their experiences, and there's a difference between someone sitting down and making up a story.
Well, I
You
think it
should be
was.
able to tell the difference between
There's
that.
a weird. You're making a thing about genre here, and I don't think it works as a comparison to the old. These were stories that were told over and over. I actually think that there's a hint of truth in the Exodus. I bet my personal theory is that there were a small group of Hebrews that that wanted to escape some kind of not 2.5 million, but
It
like a
wasn't
much
millions of
much.
people.
It was a much smaller group, is what I believe is how the story began, and so like that's fine, but I don't believe that the Red Sea parted. That's a miraculous claim, so I'm going to need more evidence for that. So there's different levels of evidence. If you say that your dog is sick, that's one level of evidence. If you said that your Triceratops is sick, I'm going to need way
let me,
more
let me
evidence.
let me bring in the scholarly perspective on this, because I think it is illuminating and it does often get misrepresented. And then I'll introduce Chris Oakey, because I'm really glad that Chris is here. He's a fantastic channel and a really great Chris. This is your first time being here too, so I want to introduce you. But just so that people know that it does get misrepresented. Like often people will say the scholars agree that there was no historical Moses. That's actually not the case. What scholars think is that Moses was probably to some degree a composite figure, right? So the Exodus didn't happen. I don't know that there is a scholarly consensus on that question specifically. And I think the third thing that KJX said was, oh gosh, there was a third claim.
So that's fine, Tavo. That is fine. That is totally fine. But I don't believe that the Red Sea parted. The part of the miraculous claim. That's a miraculous.
Well, the Red Sea, Reed Sea, that should be explored a little bit in terms of interpretation in the Reed Sea. And there is a phenomenon at the Reed Sea that does happen with very specific climate pressures that does cause.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I think that was going to be my third point, that the Red Sea can part due to wind sent down effects.
The Reed Sea, it's a little bit further down, but you have to kind of look into it a little bit. The red was an interpretation or interpolation, but it could be the Reed Sea where that phenomenon is.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So long as you understand that that there's some elaboration going on, that's totally fine. So that's all I wanted to say.
So Macintosh Pro pulled up Chris Oakey's channel, and I'm really glad that Chris is here. So there's his channel there. It's really fantastic. B.S. Lewis, really great to see you as always. I hope we have a better, more thorough conversation. Says the archaeological consensus is that Exodus did not happen. Now, I'm not sure if that's correct.
Can I answer that, Tavo?
Sure.
What if there was an Exodus of 100 people or 500 people? There wouldn't be any archaeology. That's too small, and it could be like, and over time, the stories could have expounded, and sure, there could have been multiple people like Moses. And so, you know what? Whatever, that's fine. So long as, there's a naturalistic explanation that you guys are willing to accept, that is fine. I'm not saying that the Bible is necessarily just completely false. It makes some claims that are supernatural, and we got to look into that. So, and there are some larger, and so saying there's 2.5 million Hebrews who left Egypt, there's no evidence of that. That's what we're trying to say. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
They're traveling in the desert, right? One of the things about the desert is the sands cover even cities. So it's not a surprise that there isn't evidence, because they were itinerant in the desert, and we wouldn't expect to see evidence. But refusing it because we're not seeing evidence of some things, when we do see evidence of many other things in the Bible, historically, seems odd that all of these things are historically shown, but the things that we might not expect to see any evidence for, we don't have specific evidence, and therefore we just go, no, that can't be true.
No,
that's not proof. That's talking from silence.
I will say that again, a book, just because a book has some things that are correct doesn't mean it's all correct. And you're right about the desert. Sure, we haven't even found a potsherd of anything. And yeah, sure, there's no evidence, but I will say that you do have the burden of proof on major claims like that. And
Why?
just like I said,
doesn't it move the burden
you're
of
the one
proof?
making you're making the claim that there was an actual biblical level Exodus. So in the Godzilla books, Tokyo is represented, and Tokyo is real, so it's all real.
KJ, everyone knows you can't. I mean, this is a very common argument, but everyone knows you can't make anachronistic comparisons to modern literature. And people have actually looked at whether the New Testament was written with fictional intent. Computationally, it's been proven false. So in other words, we can actually weigh using computational means, we can actually weigh the New Testament stories against other fictional stories from the Greco-Roman world. And we find that they are narratively, qualitatively different.
So, wait a minute. So you're saying the Exodus happened because
I'm not saying the Exodus happened. No. I'm not saying the Exodus happened.
Tavo, I get it, Tavo. I get it.
What I'm personally saying is that I think the fact that
that's not how it works, though.
I'm not saying that. No, let me make my point though. Because it's an important point, because this is a common thing that gets thrown out. Well, Spider-Man, right? That's we've all heard that argument dozens and dozens of times, and it's totally erroneous. It's not applicable at all. Everyone knows that the Bible is written in a different genre than modern fiction, right? And
so
that's
it's 100% correct. So you're saying it's 100% correct because of the genre?
No. I'm just saying the comparison to Spider-Man, the comparison to Godzilla that's not a reason to reject the Bible. And everyone knows that.
I'm not rejecting everything in the Bible. Okay. I'm not rejecting everything. Well, there's stuff that has no evidence. That's all.
But
I reject the stuff that has no evidence. That's all.
So if
you
someone
then accept the miracles, because there are actual evidence for the miracles.
Which miracles?
Jesus healing the blind, healing the sick, raising people from the dead.
Oh, wow. So there's evidence of outside of the Bible of Jesus raising people from the dead?
There's evidence. The Bible is
the Bible is the claim. The Bible is the claim.
Bible, no,
it's not
the Bible
evidence. The Bible is is the cop's speeding ticket. It is not.
Okay.
It is just exactly. The Bible is the claim, not the evidence. There's no evidence of the zombie uprising in Matthew, for example. So the miracles are the important stuff. But it's very telling that there's no evidence for the Exodus, for any of these other things. You know what, Kurt? If you want to come up here, I will. I'm going to say goodnight to everyone. This is well,
KJ and I have we've got a full debate. And if Kajik, do you want to make it interesting? Should we say who gets to keep the owl avatar if they win?
Owls are inferior to my true avatar, of course.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
God's true creation, foxes, are the real mammals.
Why?
Not owls.
Why is it that your owl is so much more swole than mine?
I wanted to thank you for sitting for the oil painting that is my profile for so many hours. I tried to get your musculature as close as possible. Your true musculature actually would have filled up the entire profile. So I'm sorry that I had to deflate your muscles a little bit. But thank you for sitting for. But I'm an MS Paint artist. I hate AI. I have my own Instagram, Kajik the artist, all one word. It's mediocre to say the least, but I'm learning, as you can see. And Tavo and I are going to get together next week, and we'll have a Monday, and the loser keeps an owl avatar.
I don't know if I'm confident enough in my debate skills that I would make it, but I what I would do is how about this? I will use your owl for a duration that we'll work out work out the details.
Yeah, and notice it says John 16:3, which was my favorite Bible quote. For God so loved the world that he sacrificed himself to himself for a 3-day weekend because a lady ate an apple. Which really speaks to me.
Yeah.
People
always strawman the Bible.
Before you go,
the Bible is actually multiple sources.
It's 60 books. It's 60 books written by thousands of people over time. It's very complicated. It's written by hundreds of people.
You need to learn history. That's not.
Gee. Well, I'll go learn history, buddy. All right, guys. I'll see you. I'll see you all later. I'll see you. Owl on.
I'll see you too.
Owl.
I mean, can I say something, C-Jack, real quick? Just real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah, for sure.
So, like earlier, I mentioned kind of the idea that there has been some research done, and you can look into it. If I'm right, if I'm not lying to you, that there is an understanding that there is a relatively rare phenomenon on the Reed Sea, which is likely where a lot of historians are now believing the context of the parting of the sea actually happened, that there is a phenomenon under very, very specific conditions where the sea will part and allow for dry land for passage. Like this is a natural phenomenon that actually occurs in nature.
It's like
The
a
fact that shows
down
up
effect.
now, the fact that shows up in the narrative, because initially you're like, I don't believe that garbage, that parting of the Red Sea. But now that you know there's a possibility of interpretation of a real actual phenomenon, don't you find that interesting and convincing that an ancient text would be aware of this rare phenomenon in this region that we're just now discovering happens?
So what I would say is, in the Bible, it's presented as miraculous, which it's fine that there's a natural explanation.
I mean, that's not my question, though. Like, I get that. I understand. I understand you're anti anything supernatural.
I'm setting a preamble here. So naturalism is the default position. So if there's a natural explanation for the parting of the Red Sea, that's great. The Bible does not refer to it in a natural. It actually is a supernatural.
I'll concede that part to you, because it's not part of my. It's not part of my question. I'll concede that point to you because it's not part of my question. The fact that, again, you said initially you were starting with this never happened. There's no evidence of it, and then I gave you an idea of where, well, actually, there is evidence this could happen, even naturally. I even gave you the naturally thing. Does that now increase your likelihood of believing, oh, well, maybe this could, even if you don't want to say God didn't do it, that you could see, oh, they were running, they went to the edge and the lake parted or the sea parted and they walked on and they gave credit to God, where you could at least now like be epistemically consistency. Well, I still don't believe a God did it, but based upon the possibility of natural phenomenon, I recant that there's no evidence that it happened at all.
Hey, that sounds good to me. So here's the naturalistic explanation is they attributed it to God, and there were some Jews running away or Hebrews running away, and they attributed to God a natural phenomenon. That works completely, Smokey. That's great.
Okay, so that's just where I was going. That initially you started with, hey, no evidence of this, no way it happened, but you interpreted it oddly enough through this weird westernized hyper fundamentalist garbage. And like that's the paradigm you interpret it through to decide that it never happened. Like I just wanted to make that point. Like just in terms of epistemic warrant of like taking the historicity of the text, like is to consider that the fundamentalists might even have an agenda. Like the Kent Hovind is no honest interlocutor. You know what I'm saying? So
right. I do view Christianity. I do view Christianity in the context in which I understand it, which is a very conservative, very regressive viewpoint. So that's fine. That's great. You know, whatever. I'm sorry.
Well, that's fine. I just wanted to make that meta point, but I appreciate you indulging me. Thank you.
I think that's great, Smokey. Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
You pick and choose what you accept because you've denied that it's multiple attestations for miracles. You ignore the fact that Josephus and Tacitus talk about these silly Christians who claim that these miracles are occurring. That's hostile attestation that at least the claims that we find from the actual witnesses are actually truly being made at the time.
So for extraordinary claims, I require extraordinary evidence. That's
okay, Jack, come on. Extraordinary evidence isn't even a thing. That's not even a thing. That's just rhetoric you picked up from Sagan. That's not even a thing. What is extraordinary evidence? There's no such thing. There's just evidence. What does extraordinary evidence look like?
If you,
that's extraordinary.
That's not my issue. That's the people with the burden.
No, you can't set some innocuous idea of you need to provide this thing I can't define to satisfy my incredulity. Like, come on, dude.
As the person who has the burden of proof, that is up to you to demonstrate that
God I'm just saying, like, ontologically. Let me just be very clear. Ontologically, extraordinary evidence, that's not a thing. And by the way, that's not even Sagan's quote. Did you know that? That's not even his actual quote.
So if you miss my birthday party, Smokey, you're invited to my birthday party, by the way, fellow If you miss my birthday party because you say that your dog is sick, that's fine. But if you say that your Triceratops is sick, I'm going to require a psychological examination.
That's fine.
3
You're
forms of ID,
gonna need a higher standard of
photograph.
evidence to
Yeah.
satisfy. That's
yeah, does
fine.
that make sense? Does that make sense?
But a higher standard doesn't somehow elevate the evidence to extraordinary or something beyond just being evidence. Like if I sent you a picture of the Triceratops, that's not extraordinary evidence. It's just a picture of a Triceratops. Granted, that's not going to happen because
Hey,
there's no
that would
Triceratops.
work.
But you don't know. Maybe I got
I
a
would
hold
wanna-
of John Hammond's technology and you know I cloned something. You don't know.
Exactly.
I mean, but
No,
anyway,
that's what I
it's
mean.
just
That's-
evidence. There's no
that's what I mean.
extraordinary about it. Evidence is evidence.
So if you're claiming, here's how I would explain it. If you're saying if I can't just take your claim that your Triceratops is sick for you missing my birthday party. I'm going to need more evidence, and that's what I mean. That's really what I mean. This is why
you
I try
really
not
have
to get
no evidence to believe I'm not coming because my dog is sick unless you have something to back that up. You could think I just don't want to see you today.
right.
You know?
Right, right.
You could think I'm just making an excuse, you know?
I
Smokey,
could.
you're
So-
really good at this, Smokey. I should tag you in for the debate.
Anytime, Tavo,
We will be having a debate with Kajek next Monday, and then we'll open up the panel after our debate.
All right, fun. I appreciate it, Kajek. I have fun with you. You're a good interlocker. I like you. You're good.
Thank
I
you.
like
I'm trying my best. I'm not trained in debate or anything. I know you
No,
might
you're
not
good.
be.
You're good. I've done quite a few. I did it on Modern Day Debate for a season. So yeah, I've had my season. Yeah.
Neat. Yes, that's true. You could just be like, I don't want to see you. However,
Happy birthday to Walter, by the way. Happy birthday, Walter.
Happy birthday, Walter. Talking about birthdays. So I will be needing. I won't. So like, if the claim is lower, then I won't be requiring as much evidence. That's all I was saying.
You mean if you like it, then it's good. If you don't like it, then you dismiss any evidence.
Well, like I said, I need evidence, and since you have the burden of proof, so I need evidence.
Eyewitness statements evidence.
That's not enough. There's eyewitness evidence in tons of religions for miraculous events, including dead religions, so-called. But you know what? I do need evidence. So that's all I'm saying.
There is actually archaeological evidence that confirms the eyewitness statements. It just doesn't confirm all of the bits. And you're wanting the everything to be confirmed, which nothing in history exists, if that is your standard.
Well, I'm not a radical skeptic, if that's what you're. If that's
well, but
that's
that's what
I'm not that.
You're either picking and choosing with no reasonable standard, or nothing in history exists, because the Bible has plenty of evidence to it that you can either reject or you can go, no, that is actually evidence.
I do. So
that's your choice.
Here's my opinion on that. Is that if you accept the Bible, you also have to accept all religions that make any miraculous claims. And so there's a trade-off there. You could become a pan-religious, a pantheist, or you could just say like, well, I need some evidence. But I also, spoiler alert, I don't think the Christian God is worthy of worship anyway. So it's kind of moot in that point. But if that entity did exist, I would just try to appease it in any it's an abusive patriarchal God or being entity of immense power that is just a bully and a jerk, and I would try to appease it as much as I could, so that I could frolic through Elysium hand in hand with my Lord and Savior Tavo.
Where do you get any of that from the Bible?
Just God kicked Adam and Eve out of paradise for eating an apple. I mean, hell, he flooded the entire world.
Him.
So disobedience is enough to curse an entire species. One woman disobeyed him and he curses an entire species forever. And then he decides he has to sacrifice himself to himself for a 3-day weekend to make it up to us or forgive us. He couldn't just forgive us. He has to go through this whole rigmarole. So the theology of
the
Christianity,
justice system is a joke.
well, being disobedient is not worthy of an infinite punishment, especially when they don't know what they're doing. They are very young creatures who were born just the other week, and they eat they have no knowledge of good and evil. Suddenly when they eat the tree.
What is your knowledge of good and evil?
Well, it's enough
Because
to say
you're judging God.
Yeah, God is an
what is
abusive
your
jerk.
knowledge of good and evil?
A good parent wouldn't curse his child forever for being disobedient. He wouldn't throw them out of the house forever for being disobedient. A good parent. An abusive parent, sure. An abusive jackass parent would do that for sure.
How do you know?
What if he knew that they were going to keep being disobedient?
Well, I don't know what God knows, but I do know that he cursed these two species. He also took away the legs of snakes forever. He didn't curse the apple, except he did make the apple keep doctors away. And that truly, as Tavo knows, is the real curse.
So
go ahead.
Can I
we
just say
are at 2 hours and 25 minutes. I'll probably start trying to wrap up soon.
Oh, geez, I need to. I'm old. I need to get to bed. Go ahead, Batman.
Yeah. So and I'm not saying this, K-Jack, as like any form of disrespect, right? Like a lot of what you say, albeit they're all like mocking, right? But a lot of it is grounded in.
I'm trying to be good faith. I'm trying to argue in good faith.
Good faith doesn't include mocking, respectfully, right? But I don't. That doesn't even bother me at this point. I'm not necessarily like even bothered by that, right? Like
I'm trying to argue in good faith. Really, truly, this is what I believe. This is what I truly believe.
Sure, I heard what you
have
said and what you believe. Now, please listen to whatever I have to say. Okay, so it's difficult to have a conversation with you about these things if it's a situation where you're not even willing to take whatever the person is conveying seriously. You don't have to believe something to be true in order to entertain the idea to discuss the validity of it, right? And throughout this whole conversation, right, all you've basically been doing is what you just did a while ago, right? You take ideas, typical, crappy fundamentalist ideas, right, that you heard of, and you kind of ran with it. And it's like to have a conversation with a guy like, I don't know, Smokey or me or Tavo, who actually like put in the effort to learn what these scriptures are actually trying to convey and what they say, right? It's difficult to have that conversation with you, right? And we want to have that conversation, but you don't make us really want to have the conversation.
I have been a constant. I have been a recurring character on Tavo's channel, and I don't think Tavo thinks that he mimight think I'm annoying for sure, but here's what I'll say. So I play the part of the skeptic. So for if this is any kind of debate, I'm playing the part of the person saying I'm not buying it. That's my job as the skeptic. The skeptic's job. I'm not buying it yet. Maybe if I was provided enough evidence, then I would buy it. There's also there are theological things, problems I have. We just talked about it. but I'm trying to act in good faith. I'm not
Come on.
not trying to, not necessarily, I'm not, I play the funny guy and all this stuff, but I am trying to act in good faith. But I
I'm
am
not
the
trying
skeptic.
to act
But I
in
am the
good
skeptic.
faith.
But I am the
I just
skeptic.
asked you.
Well, I don't know.
asked you a
But I am
bunch
the
of
Here's the
things,
thing. I would give
and you just
that,
wrote them up.
But
if
it
I
is like
could,
a
I would
4-on-1.
give.
Well,
I
It
would
is a
give.
4-on-1 debate.
Hold on.
let me just. I do feel like I should underscore that. Like, I think the advice that we should both have good faith on Monday is well taken both ways. Like, it is really like this last few minutes have made me think, wow, I should really make sure that if I'm asking you to have good faith, Kajek, for when we talk on Monday, that I should also have good faith and really take your arguments seriously. And I think Kajek is responding to a lot of people right now, and that makes it harder to like have I don't want to say we're not having good faith conversation. It is a good faith conversation, but it's hard to answer all these questions all at once from multiple people. That I think it's I just a lot of this chat has been more majority atheist. At the moment it's more majority Christian, but I just yeah. Anyways,
I'll give Ajax credit if you'll just give me like 60 seconds, because I do think in what we even discussed with the Reed C and stuff, like he's willing to be somewhat honest about it. I understand his presupposition and his, I guess, for lack of a better word, angst, but I will give him credit, at least for my engagement. He does seem to be at least attempting to engage in good faith, and his fervor in terms of denial seems to be, at least as far as I've seen, reserved for this pretty radical fundamentalism that most of us in this room don't even hold to. So just throwing that out there.
Thank you, Smokey. So I will say that if you try to so one thing you could do, and this is how debates might, like, generally, the burden of proof is really hard. So if you tried, and shifting the burden of proof to me and my belief and what I think God is, if you do figure out what I think God is, then that would be a truly interesting discussion. But I'm going to save that for if you can find a roundabout way to figure out what I think God truly is. But as far as the Christian God, I have a lot of questions, thousands and thousands of endless questions. So, but it's been very interesting. Except I don't like being accused of arguing in bad faith, but it's okay. I'm unlike your God. I forgive you. Instead of cursing you forever. Isn't that nice? Isn't that sweet?
It's stuff like that makes me think that it's not good faith, because
Exactly.
God
oh, brother.
Because
can't even take a joke.
mean, sure.
Can't even take a joke. Jeez.
Because the God of the Bible very specifically and clearly in multiple points comments again and again that we can be forgiven.
He killed everyone on earth. He flooded the whole damn planet. You know what? Okay, I'm gonna say I need to go to sleep. But
I'll grant that you're probably tired.
You can count this as a win because I am running away. No, I'm just kidding. But I will say that, like, the fundamentalist Christian God is deeply problematic to me. And sure, if you can, because the Old Testament, because I think Tavo pointed this out before, it's the Old Testament that is a serious problem, serious problem. The New Testament doesn't seem to make as many, claims, I guess. It makes a lot of claims, but it doesn't make the Old Testament makes huge claims that and the Old Testament is chained to the New Testament like a ball and chain, to its leg, and so that's the problem. But I'm rambling now, so I just wanted to say that I'm not trying to be
Hey, Jack,
in bad
can I
faith,
ask
but I
you?
do pepper.
Can I ask you? Have you ever heard of Dr. David Falk's channel, FALK? Ancient History in Egypt. I forget the exact name of the channel, but if you type in Dr. Falk in YouTube, I think it'll come up. And he specifically deals with a lot of the stuff. Like he's an Egyptologist, an actual Egyptologist. So he has an extensive amount of info, particularly about like Exodus and stuff like that. In fact, I even did an interview with him on that exact topic. So, I mean, I think you're approaching this from like, and again, you mentioned again, like the worldwide flood, like, oh, the whole earth. Yeah, I agree. It's stupid. The heat problem is a real issue for anyone with that interpretation scientifically. I completely agree with you.
Actually, fellow owl, can I posit that the worldwide flood was actually an elevation of the not the Ganges, but it was a local flood.
Fine. Like 100%
Exactly.
on board with you. Great.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so
Yeah, there
again,
you
like
go.
all your angst is kind of reserved to this Kent Hovendy, Stephen
There you go.
Anderson standing for truth, hyper fundamentalist, mega literal interpretation garbage. And this isn't like,
Maybe,
like your angst isn't with the people over
channel
here,
is on the screen right now.
There you
But
go.
I think you're right.
Thanks,
I
LA
think you're right.
Apologetics. And I'll check
I
out
have
your
a-
video after this with two LA.
He's a Christian. He's a good guy. He's got an active channel. He covers a lot of interesting topics. Gives a lot of great ancient Near East context. Really good to listen to. Yeah, highly recommend.
Let's do this. Let's go into wind down mode. And what we do for that is we just kind of go around the room. We say things that we're working on or things that we're looking forward to on our channels, and feel free to like promote your stuff a little bit. Would that be okay? Because we're at 2.5 hours
Yes,
now.
please.
I'll probably start winding down.
My voice, as you can tell, it's my voice started out Tavo-ish and is now becoming K-Jecky. It's becoming squeaky and high and flustered, as you can tell.
All right. Well, let's go through and just we'll just say like check out our channel and whatever you want to do in the last few minutes of the conversation. Feel free to like promote your channel and let's start with I Am Batman, and then we'll just go around the room too. Odin, I'm Batman. Anything you want to say? Stuff you're working on?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me join and engage in some conversation. I really appreciate it. Yes, I am working on a couple papers. That Exodus paper I mentioned earlier. I also wrote a paper contesting the static block universe. I hold to the growing block universe, but it's called Battle of the Blocks. I thought the title was pretty cool, but it's actually a foundation for another paper, which is to argue how God's knowledge would function within a growing block universe. So I am currently still trying to work out the kinks. I'm about like 90% finished on all of those papers. I just need to put in the extra time and to finish them up and kind of have a bunch of grammar checks and stuff like that. But I think you'll find them pretty interesting, Tavo. I don't know if you're like a determinist or anything like that. I'm certainly not a determinist. I'm an open theist. I'm a old Earth creationist. I do hold to a local flood. I think Adam and Eve is real. And when God created humans, he created plural, multiple humans. So that's kind of like my general position on those things. But yeah, that's what I got working on. So watch out for your email. I'll send you something, and hopefully you'll find them pretty interesting. There's a lot of philosophy, so I think you'll enjoy that too.
I'm very certain I will. Yeah, your stuff that I've read so far is really fascinating.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Take care, y'all.
All right, let's go to Max. Max, I should apologize that I didn't get to you more in the conversation.
Oh, yeah, I should speak up more, I guess. But I'm going to try to say something quick because I know you want to wrap this up. But earlier, I think you were talking to Robin and you were giving your reasons why you thought humans were basically bad. And I was shocked at the evidence you used. The Stanford prison experiment has been so thoroughly discredited. I cannot believe you would use that as evidence about human nature. They've tried to replicate it, and it's always a different result. Nothing happens. There's no abuse.
Well, I mean, I rattled off like 5 or 6 studies, like the Milgram
experiment has problems too.
All the sociological studies where they had people write essays about themselves, all the studies about self-licensing. There's a lot of empirical research, and there's a lot of other research, and the Milgram experiments have been reproduced to a degree.
The Milgram experiments have a problem because nobody believes that anyone is going to die. It's not plausible that you're going to walk in and like, oh yeah, if I press this button, someone's going to die. No, they talk to people afterwards and they don't believe it's a real experiment.
Well, wait a second. I mean, they don't believe that people are going to die, but they hear people in pain and they do things to increase people's pain. And in the original,
but it's not real. Nobody's actually being hurt, and they know it's ridiculous.
Well, yeah,
you'll never get away with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I cited Monin and Miller. I cited Blanken. I rattled off a lot of stuff, but I don't.
The first two you mentioned were both had huge problems. I can look into some of the other ones.
I don't know that the Milgram experiment has as many problems as you're saying. The Stanford prison experiment was obviously very dramatized, but
so then why did you? The Stanford has been attempted to be replicated, and the results are different. That's a huge undermining of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an experiment where people did bad things, but the results were somewhat dramatized, and it's not been reproduced since, and it doesn't seem to be able to be reproduced under sterile conditions. But I mean, like I said, there's a lot of other real world examples. There's the whole Browning's book about RSB 101, and there's a lot of examples that suggest that humans left to our own devices do bad things to each other. Now, I don't know. I think evil is much more of a judgment call. But I mean, I think humans are capable of doing really horrific things, especially unchecked.
I mean, there's a big difference between basically evil and sometimes do evil. It seems like unchecked people are fine. It's when someone on top, like Adolf Hitler, is when they become evil. It's top down. It's not bottom up evil.
Well, that's the core of Hannah Arendt's work. It was on the banality of evil. In other words, evil becomes tolerable, and as soon as you say, "Yeah, this is not evil because it's coming from a position of authority," we sort of abandon our safeguards, our moral safeguards, and we're willing to hurt other people. You can dehumanize somebody, and that allows you to hurt somebody else. But I mean, I don't think. I at least think it's an unsettled question. Well, I'll let you make your point. Go ahead, keep going. I don't want to have too much because we're kind of out of this is the wind down phase.
Okay, well, I guess I made the main point is at least a couple of those experiments I thought were not very good. I can look into some of the other ones, which I don't know if you actually mentioned them all to her when you were speaking. I only heard a couple of them, but I guess I don't think it's as clear cut as you're making it seem. I think there's the more recent attempts to replicate the Stanford prison experiment suggest that people can be good because they don't abuse when they try to replicate it. That's positive evidence.
Well, what stuff are you working on, Max?
What?
Are you working on stuff for your channel or anything?
I mean, I was thinking of starting a story, and I'm kind of brainstorming some characters and stuff, but I'm not really. There's nothing for anyone to see right now.
Okay. Your webcomic was really great.
Yeah, I completely lost. Like, I started school again, and then I completely lost the plot on that comic. It's probably never going to start again. But thank you for commenting on it.
I liked it. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to Kajek next.
Thank you for having me on, Tavo. Thank you for letting me steal your identity. Loser gets the channel next month. And I do think that generally I'm arguing against a fundamentalist version of Christianity in a lot of ways, But I'll also say that next Monday, I think we'll have a good conversation. I've been reading. I'm up to page 100 of Zeros Next to Your Name. We might discuss that if you're open to it. And then if you read any of my my book that I sent, at least the first draft, it's just the first draft that I sent to you of my book, we could talk about the weird religious trauma that is happening in my setting and how that might relate to my beliefs. If the sign of a bad author is that he he injects himself accidentally into his work, and I hope I didn't do that. But I would, you know what, I would love to discuss our competing worldviews on that, and next maybe that kind of thing, and it sounds fun. I'm at Kajik1, so my YouTube channel is technically Kajik1, and my Instagram is Kajik the Artist, all one word. And I'm working on a novel, and I draw a bunch of stuff on Instagram.
Cool. Yeah. And
I sent you my notes on Zeros Next to Your Name.
Yeah. Just for next time, just so you know, for next time when I say please try to steel man my views, I'm saying STEEL. All right, okay, that's a corny joke. All right. Okay.
All right. Steal your views. Got it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Chris. What are you working on, Chris? Where can people catch you?
Chris Oki _ministry on YouTube or TikTok, and I'm mainly doing a mixture of Christian debate with other Christians or Muslims, and putting or making music related to Christianity.
Right on.
That's basically what I do.
Right on. You've been like putting the Psalms to music, right?
Yeah, I did all the Psalms. I've written a couple of what I would call my Psalms, which are not biblical. And I'm trying to give evidence within the music that I do, like specific Quran verses, specific Bible verses. I quote Tacitus and Josephus in one, pointing out extra biblical evidence. Just that sort of thing, so that people can hopefully easily hear the Bible and easily listen to why we should have respect for the Bible.
And the link to your channel is on the screen right now as well. Yeah. Okay, well, that was great. That was a fun chat with everyone. I really want to thank Dr. Kurt. I want to thank Robin for coming up. I really want to thank Kelly for coming up. BBN, we didn't get to chat more, but I hope we chat again. Shadow, hope we chat more again. I've got a couple of videos coming up on the channel. Next up on Thursday, I'm going to do a Talking with Tavo series video with On Day 3, who has a really fantastic channel. He's a really gifted speaker. So please check that out. Thanks again to Macintosh Pro for all the shout outs. Again, really want to thank the people who have subbed to the channel. We've got like 4 or 5 new subs just on this video alone, which is really exciting. We're up to 884. You can make it 885 right now in this very second. And we're inching our way towards 1,000 subs. And again, I will reveal my rapper moniker at 1,000 subs. So looking forward to that. And I have another video that I'm working on, which I hope you all check out. That'll be up very soon as well. Well, that's going to be it for us. But really great to chat with you all. This really did turn out to be a really wonderful conversation. And I'm really grateful for all your participation. And I hope that you all have a really wonderful night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Tavo.